Quack quack guys, and welcome to the Warhammer World Championships. This is going to be a series we'll be doing it every now and again as I do go through each stage of the Warhammer World Championships. For those who don't know, it is the largest tournament ever hosted for Total War Warhammer, and we're going to be going through every single group game I had today. I'm very excited to show you guys this, as it's been something I've been wanting to do for quite a long time, to play in more big tournaments, and this is as big as they come. We've got quite a few games today. We're going to be playing up against Grenadier, Vizaresh, Sharin, Gwak, and the games against Gwak, by the way, are probably the best games I've ever played in a tournament. They were both insane. Kamikaze and Haruno. Unfortunately, I didn't get to play all my opponents. We had 2 dropouts, and one guy we couldn't unfortunately make the games against. But I have got my results back from them because basically they weren't able to play the games, which is a little bit unfortunate. But apart from that, we're going to have to see how I do perform. We've got some tough competition. There we go, if I can get my words out. Vizaresh is a YouTuber, and Gwak himself is a ECL finalist before and an absolute god of war. But we are going to be starting up against Grenadier, and you're going to be seeing a lot of Lizardmen today, guys, because this, of course, is a very tournament. A big, competitive tournament all round, so there's not too many risks being taken part, and Lizardmen are my best faction, so you're going to be seeing a ton of Lizardmen, particularly on Alpine Ridge, because I got to choose the map a lot of the time first, and that's the combination I felt was best. The other maps were pretty big and open, so definitely Lizardmen, Alpine Ridge, stomping some heads is what we're going to see, so a lot of Mastermundi. Looks like Duck belongs to the genus of the early birds. Yeah, we're here. We had 2 dropouts as well. Yeah, it's a little unfortunate, but it's all fine. It's all fine. What's up, Poland? How's it going, man? Fantastic game earlier. I've actually cast the game we had. It should be up on the channel relatively soon. I really like your Lizardman build. Sergeant Spaghetti, Ad, Sand, Pirate, Petersburg, the man, the myth, the legend, Ghostly. How are you guys all doing today? I hope you fight with orcs against COVID. I don't know if we actually bring orcs, but the first 2 games up against Grenadier, so obviously we're going to be playing everyone twice. That is the format of the tournament, and yeah, should be some good fun. I'm going to be keeping track of my score and the group score, so at the end of the stream, you guys will see what the big overarching score is at the end, and where I finish in our group. So up first, we are going to be taking the forces of the Lizardmen up against Grenadier's Tomb Kings, and we have actually gone for the mighty beast Krokgar himself, so no Mastermundi today. Not just yet, but don't worry, we will see plenty of him throughout the stream. Welcome, welcome. Sooner you guys join him. And we're going to hop in here with the first battle. Let's go into slow motion and very quickly go through the builds. Actually, I'm going to pause it because it looks like it's going to be some early skirmish phase for us. So for our battle line, it is a relatively simple plan. Skink cohorts, Saurus warriors dotted all the way along the front line to swarm the enemy, grind them down, and push into that back line. The best way Tomb Kings deal with the Lizardmen is range, but luckily Alpine Ridge does suit our needs in that aspect. We have 1 unit of Temper Guard in the mix as well. These guys are called Armor Piercing Anti-Large, going to help up against big single entities if they do come after us. We also have a Skink Priest of Beast, Manticore Summon, Amber Spear, and Flock of Doom. The 2 big beasties today are the Thunderous one. This is probably my most picked Lizardmen unit at the moment. It is just so horrifically powerful. Rains fire, or lightning I should say, down from the sky like Thor himself. And is a very powerful duelist on its own right. But alongside Krokgar, this is going to be a powerful combination. Krokgar coming in with Hand of the Gods, Swiftness of Itzel, Deadly Onslaught, Sacred Spawning. All round Krokgar fantastic in this matchup, mainly because of Hand of the Gods. Not only can he duel a lot of the characters and large entities, Hand of the Gods slaughters Casket of Souls. You can pretty much one-shot a Casket, especially when followed up with an Amber Spear. You can pretty much one-shot Arkan if he's on its horse, and all that kind of nasty stuff. For my opponent, he has a nice little skirmish corps of Skeleton Horse Archers taking the ridge line, so he can spot me before I can spot him properly, and he also has a unit of Carrion flying up in the skies. We have a couple more horsemen down here hidden in the trees on the left-hand flank, but for his main battle line, it is going to be a mixture of Skeleton Spearmen as well as the more elite warriors here. Looks like we've got 2 of them in the centre, Spearmen on the flanks, a ton of archers in the centre with more Spearmen backing them up in the kind of rear here. Now, pretty cheap, pretty cheerful for the most part of this build, nothing too crazy. We do have a Leech Priest of Death coming in with a Humble Spirit Leech. So where is all his money? Well, half his big chunk of money is going to be coming in on this Tomb King, who is on top of a mighty kitty cat here. Coming in with Tomb Strike as well as the Scorpion Armor, which is pretty damn cool. Does give him 22% damage resistance once he gets below half health. And the rest of his money, which I should say the majority, is going into the Sphinx of oh god, I'm going to butcher his name, Yuskef. That's what we're going to go with. The Regiment of Renowned Necro Sphinx. Very powerful in this matchup. There's flaming attacks, magical damage, has resistance to fire as well, so you can't drag it down with salamanders, which can be pretty common pick in this matchup. And just look how angry he is. He's really mad to be here on the battlefield. In the back lines, we do have Pohawk Sentinels, as well as 2 Terran Riders with the Fire Leech Bowlers, a unit I am a massive fan of that I think is very underrated. So who is your money on? What's up, Hamoud? I'll let you get your bets in now before we do start. We have a awesome battle between the forces of the Lizardmen, controlled by myself, and the Tomb Kings. And let's see how my first game in the tournament goes. These are going to be replays in chronological order as well. So this was the very first game I played. So I was pretty nervous. I didn't really know my opponent. Hadn't faced him before on the battlefield. So it's always a little bit scary when you come up against a Tomb King main. Saurus Warriors will be taking those arrows on their shields. They're happy bunnies. They're very happy to do this. Not going to be too fast as we do decide to try and take the ridge line. My opponent is going to be giving it up, which is absolutely fine. He can just sit back down here and defend, but the Pterodon Riders are now swooping in. At this point, I really wanted to test my opponent's micro, as I didn't know how good he was. So all the Pterodons are going to be coming in, Pohawk Sentinels as well, just trying to dart, bob, and weave, annoy him as much as possible while we advance with the rest of our formation. Pterodon Riders, in fact, the Pohawk Sentinels delete a unit pretty much to the last man. Still 41 troops left, but minus 112. That one rock drop got them 81 kills and killed an entire unit. These guys are so powerful. So that's one unit of archers down, which is good news for us. Fire Leech Bowlers as well, doing some really nice burst damage onto those skeleton spearmen. Only one unit of carrion to try and hold back 3 Pterodon Riders is pretty rough. The skeleton horseman archers probably need to fall back into a more defensive formation, although they are trying to kind of get a little bit aggressive onto the skink cohorts, as horsemen do whip around the flanks. They can certainly hammer home at the skinks relatively well as well. The Sphinx looking for its target. Now I'm trying to keep the Thunderous One and Crocky G a little bit close together. They do a kind of bump and grind there. Looks like something a little bit more R-rated is happening, as they're going to be needed to work as a pair to bring down the Sphinx, which is a very terrifying foe. Up in the skies, we do 2v1 the carrion. I'm absolutely fine with this. We should be able to beat them back. I don't mind if we lose a model or two, as long as we get them off the field. And this unit of Fire Leech Bowlers is just bombarding those archers down on the ground, doing some really nice damage where possible. And the front line hasn't even engaged yet, but I'm feeling pretty good so far. Up in the skies, though, the Pterodon Rise with one of the rock drops is actually suffering. My opponent's got some really good target in micro here now on these skeleton horsemen archers, pulling them back, taking down my air force, which has just about managed to finish off those carrion. And it looks like the big Sphinx is going to be bulldozing its way through the Temple Guard. And this is where we're going to spring our trap. So Croc Guard and the Thunderous One are going to come in, looking to pin the Sphinx in place where possible. And then we can disengage these Temple Guard from the front and surround him. The Crocky G coming with those big slams, proving who is the apex predator. He roars in the face, and the Thunderous One does emerge as well. Looks like we have been hit by a Spirit Leech, but all our buffs are going down. We also summon a Feral Manticore to help support. This Tomb King needs to get over here in this fight if he wants a chance, and the Temple Guard are going to be swarming back for a lovely little surround. And look how quickly this hugely powerful foe is going to be going down, with the Manticore popping on top of him as well. The Sphinx is in big trouble. In comes the Tomb King, however, going to get a lovely attack onto the flank of the Thunderous One, but the Sphinx has just been absolutely annihilated. Skink cohorts are currently being used in a sacrificial sense just to keep the skeleton horse archers busy. Skink priest is trotting around, and in the back lines, the Fire Leech Bowlers have taken a decent amount of damage, but at the same time up to 95 kills, just bombarding, harassing the archers where possible. Saurus Warriors as well starting to fall through the gaps in this Tomb King build, and the Saurus in the front doing a good job as well. Big Sphinxy does go down here to the might of Krokgar and that Feral Manticore. Now we turn our sights onto the Tomb King. If these guys had fought side by side, it'd been a much closer fight, but Crocky G and the Thunderous One, both super healthy at the moment. Temple Guard are going to be trailing after the Tomb King as well, who is deciding to fall back at this moment. Feral Manticore shall be disappearing in a moment, but he's going to be charging in anyway, trying to get some rear attacks on. Big Hand of the Gods does come in, but only just clips the top of the Tomb King's head. Most of the beams missing. In the back line, the Skeleton Horseman Archers really starting to make some good value. Pterodon Riders are now going down in droves, despite the fact they've done some pretty good damage at this point. But a large contingent of the Tomb King's forces on the ground are slowly being dragged down by Saurus Warriors, who aren't taking too much damage. And we have pretty much full health Temple Guard, Thunderous One, and Crocky G here in the back lines. Krokgar now trying to fight the Leech Priest where possible. Big old slam and tail slap onto her. She's not having the best of days. Now I'm going to be running around and fleeing where possible. There's a nice little archer core. I can't get overconfident. Balance power is in my favour at this point. The Crocodile is very isolated. If I allow him to just be shot to death by these archers, the Tomb King may carry. So we do decide to fall back, summon a Pharaoh Manticore to try and put the nail in the coffin. As it looks like the Shopsy summon has gone down. Thunderous One won't mind tackling them though with the help of the Temple Guard. Horsemen now swooping around as well. We're going to be doing some nice little surround on the Thunderous One. But he loves being surrounded. That's where he excels with those big lightning bolts coming down from the skies. Somehow the Fire-Lich Bowlers are still going, bombarding the Skeleton Archers. And the Pharaoh Manticore is just going to go for a Leroy Jenkins style approach. He knows he's not here for a long time, but he's certainly here for a fun time. Going after that Tomb King, although the Tomb King is getting probably the better of the fight so far. Chica Flock of Doom comes down the Archers, just trying to drag them away as they're the only real threat left to my big dinosaurs. Balance power is starting to push towards armor losses as well as the Pohawk Sentinels, who did fantastic this game, arguably MVPs for that early assassination attempt, are now driving off the horsemen. And yeah, the horsemen can kite back, fire a few of their arrows into these guys, but that's absolutely fine. Every arrow going into them is an arrow less going into Crocky G. Saurus Warriors as well as Skinks are getting a nice surround on some of the remaining forces here. And once again, Crocodile comes in for the assassination attempt on the two characters. Thunderous One is a little far away, so Crocky G certainly getting a bit big for his boots. But does manage to break and crumble off the Leech Priest. And the Tomb King shall fall to the might of the Double Dinosaur Threat. Now, the Double Dinosaur Threat is definitely something that's going to be featured heavily here on this stream. I am a big fan of it. Yes, let loose the Quack Guard. Quack Guard did very good, man. Yeah, so I think my opponent put ultra unit sizes. There's a few mistakes throughout the tournament. A few of the players are relatively new to the tournament scene, so don't set everything necessarily correctly. So I believe this first game was on ultra size, and maybe the next one was as well. But, you know, it was still pretty good fun. I think I noticed on the second game, actually. So let's end the replay there so we can actually have a little look at the stats before we move on to the next one. Very well played to Grenadier 515 there. Did some pretty good stuff. I actually don't hate his build whatsoever, despite the fact it was a pretty dominant victory in the end by the forces of the Lizardmen. The Tomb King as well as the Sphinx combination can work relatively well. I would prefer Cetra, however, on top of his Mighty Beast, as he simply couldn't protect his back line. He had to deal with too many big dinosaurs, and unfortunately no real good damage value across the board for the majority of his troops, unfortunately, which is a little bit sad for him. For the forces of myself, though, we'll only be doing too big a breakdown between games because we have a lot of games to get through today. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different players, so that is 12 games. Crocky G performed absolutely fantastic, as you'd expect from such a legendary warrior. 8.2k damage dealt, 1.8k damage value. Really nice stuff out of the gate. Of course, the Skink Priest isn't going to get crazy stuff. He's here for the Manticore summon, and they did a decent job. Saurus Warrior's been a good, solid backbone, chewing their way through the Tomb King's forces. And the Temple Guard as well, 8k damage value. Maybe doesn't seem a huge amount for a unit which is relatively expensive, but at the same time, yeah, they're still pretty much full health. MVPs were definitely the Air Core, though. The Fire-Lich Bowlers getting 166 kills, 1,000 damage value here, and 800 on the other one, 123 kills. They're such good chaff clearers, really underrated unit. People tend to like bring the normal ones because they do a similar job, but up against the undead, such as Tomb Kings, Vampirates, Bretonnia, I think these guys are worth the extra money. Pohawk Sentinels as well, getting nearly 1,000 damage value with a glorious rock drop out of the gate. And the Thunderous One, they're getting at 2,000 damage value himself. Pretty impressive stuff. What's up, Leo? What's up, Papa Palpatine? What's up, Killer? Hope you guys are doing all good. So that was our first game. For those who have just joined, we are going through every single group game I have played, as they're now all finished in the Warhammer World Championships. And we're going to update the scoreboard now. So we have taken an early lead. Our first game in the tournament was a victory, which is always good to see. So once you get a victory, particularly in these games where it's kind of like you're playing back and forth, so two games, one person picking a ban and choosing the map, and then vice versa. It's always nice to get a nice little early victory. So that was for that one. Let's go down to our next game, which we are going to be under the control of the High Elves up against Grenadier and his Dwarfs. So he did pick Dwarfs and didn't ban High Elves, and we are coming for blood, coming in with the hard counter. So who's your money on? Do you think Grenadier can drag this one back? And the scoreboard at the top is going to be for myself and then for the group as a whole. Grenadier coming in with Ungrim Iron Fist, the Lord himself, whereas we're coming in with Alariel and the cheesiest cheese you could ever cheese. Oh yes, we have that extra strong cheddar right here. we are bringing all the horribly overpowered stuff to take down the forces of the Dowie. In my front line, I have a bucket ton of white lions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The most you can bring. These guys, armor-piercing great axe infantry, can cleave their way through dwarf warriors and longbeards alike. Really scary stuff. Just behind them, we do have 2 units of the basic archers. Now, you may be wondering, Duck, why on earth would you bring archers to a heavy metal armor fight? They're not going to do much damage to dwarf warriors, not much damage to quarrels and so forth. Well, they're here to take down slayers as well as artillery crews. They butcher artillery crews very quickly. And again, slayers can be a big problem, so that helps you finish them off. We have gone triple Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower. Oh yes, we're going to be trying to outshoot the Dowie, pull them out of their comfort zone. From the first game, I thought my opponent was going to be a relatively defensive player, particularly in this matchup, so we're going to be looking to try and drag him off his high ground there. And down here on the low ground, we have double line chariots, 2 units of the bad boys, as well as a noble on chariot. And the noble on chariot has been a constant thorn in the side of the Dowie for many moons. But coming in completely naked though, none of his magical armor or any of that fun stuff. And then we have Alariel the Radiant, coming in Star of Avalon, Earthblood, and Tempest, just in case there's some of those pesky gyrocopters up in the skies. And yeah, basically healing chariots. That's the way you win this matchup. For the force of the Dowie, we should actually probably get this game started. Boy Sigma, what's up, Dark Raptor? Is this live games? No, this is replays, man. This is replays. So for the forces of the Dowie, we have Dwarf Warriors and Longbeards dotted around in a nice little defensive formation. A ton of Slayers holding up the rear. Looks like none of the Regiment Renown though, just the 3 basic ones. Got a couple of Bolt Throwers. Bolt Throwers can be pretty good against chariots if you can make your hits, and these guys tend to be a bit more accurate than cannons, I think. But they do have shorter range, so they're really going to suffer up against the Bolt Throwers. We've got miners with blast charges in the back line. We have double Thunderers, 1 unit of Iron Drake Trollhammer torpedoes, as well as Ungrim Iron Fist, who is going to be leading the charge here. Now, I absolutely love Ungrim. I think the White Dwarf, though, is pretty pivotal in this matchup because you need those flash bombs to really kind of pin in the chariots. And this build has a big problem, and that is those chariots. Like Silent Spaghetti, I believe, did say in chat, there's not too much to take them down. What's up, Neckbit? Yo, how's it going? I play this matchup on this map, and they corner camped. Well, he is pushing forward, so I'm absolutely fine with that. Now, I think my opponent here is one of the newer players. We have, obviously, a mixture in the group. So a few new players, a few experienced players. We've got some very scary players in the group as well that we are going to be showing replays up against a little bit later. So first and foremost, we are going to focus down the bolt throwers where possible. And again, this is on the wrong unit size, unfortunately. My opponent was hosting, but it's absolutely fine. It shouldn't make too much of a difference there. As the Noble and Chariots do dive forward as well onto the Dwarf Warriors. This unit a little bit isolated away from the rest of his Dwarven folks. We're simply going to ramrod our way through and feast upon their souls. And yeah, Dwarf Warriors not going to have a fun time whatsoever up against the Lion Chariots. He's getting a little bit of nice overwatch now from the Quarrelers. We're going to continue to bounce around where possible with our Chariots to try and make him pay for being over-aggressive. Bolt throws are going down at this point, down to just the 2 models on this one, still have a decent amount on the others. Slayers are wanting to sit back and defend, and Ironside maybe leaving 1 unit behind, but you've lost the range game at this point. These bolt throws aren't really going to be doing anything, so push the Slayers forward, protect the Troll Hammers and the Thunderers instead, is my advice to my opponent here. White Lions are okay in the front line. Of course, they will suffer up against a legendary warrior like Ungrim, who's now finally getting in there. And oh my god, just decapitates a White Lion straight out of the gate. What we're going to be doing with our chariots is whipping them up and around and slamming home onto the rest of the Dwarf Warriors and trying to bob our way along the front line whilst pressuring the back line where possible. Slayers are in hot pursuit of our Noble Chariot, who is running for his life at the moment. Slayers and Thunderers looking to pit the hurt on him. They've done a little bit of damage. Trollhammer torpedoes, though, firing a little bit short, although a few do clobber the Noble relatively well. Over on the left-hand flank as well, we have another unit of Longbeards slowly being dragged down by White Lions, as Alariel and Lion Chariots just cycle charge this unit of Dwarf Warriors to death on the left-hand side. Archers are raining shots in, trying to focus down. It looks like just the front line for now, but once I spot the Slayers, I'll certainly be moving them up, and it looks like that's just what we're going to be doing now, as the Slayers are one of the best counters here to the Chariots if my micro does slip and they get pinned in place. And it looks like one Chariot is getting pinned in here. Slayers screaming at war cries and jumping at a death blow to try and take down the Chariots. We're simply going to kite away, run over some more Thunderers, and pop into this lovely, juicy back line. Bolt throws are, of course, winning. We just have far more of them up against the enemy bolt throws, but not by a huge amount. And we're actually going to be switching now to the scatter shot and just firing on the Slayers, as I'm not really that scared of these bolt thrower crews for the most part. Lion Chariots as well, just, dumpstering some Quarrelers. It's what they do. Undrake Trollhammer torpedoes are engaged in hand-to-hand combat, and it doesn't look like help is going to arrive anytime soon. Some Thunderers are going to get a lovely little bit of crossfire, though. Some of these white lines are actually standing their ground not too bad. Only a couple do go down, but some really nice burst damage from them. Slayers want to come in here, pin these troops in place, and save the Iron Drakes. Looks like a lot of damage has been done to the Noble. Ungrim getting his axe a little bit wet with blood, but the Noble is going to be able to fall back, and we haven't used many heals whatsoever yet. We have plenty of magic left in the back burner, just in case things go a little bit rogue. Dwarf Warriors are being cleaned up here. My opponent is now deciding he needs to push into the back line and shut down the archers and bolt throws, which is a good idea, but it is going to be coming in drips and drabs. We have a unit of Slayers, just the 4 of them, as well as some Longbeards pushing back here, but the Slayers are being shot down to the last man. Looks like just the 1 Slayer left. Go, go, go! Will name him Sergeant Spaghetti after the Dowie player himself. And he's going to charge forward, and he's just going to give up and turn around, and then come back again, and then get a bolt straight to the face. Oh my god. Oh my god, that was brutal stuff right there. White lines are getting a little bit battered at this point. We've lost quite a few models. My opponent's actually managed to stabilise the back line relatively well with these Thunderers and Quarrelers. And a few of my white line units, again, real beat up at this point. But balance power is so heavily in our favour. We're going to pull back with our chariots here, as well as our Noble, and heal them up with Alariel the Radiant where possible. In the front line, white lines are now dueling with Slayers, which is absolutely fine by me. Yeah, the Slayers can dish out a decent amount of damage, but the white lines are going to be quite comfortable there for the most part. Bolt throwers continue to rain shots down in the back line, just finishing off the enemies' ones, and chariots bouncing between enemies. Ugly Iron Fist has 120 armor, so we are trying to shoot him a little bit of our archers, but that's probably a bit of a mistake. I always think because he's a Slayer, he's not going to have armor, but he certainly does. I suppose he's a king at the right time. Yeah, ironically, the added unit size kind of gives us the advantage because the more chariots. I agree. Well, I think I spoke to him about it afterwards, like, heads up, man, you're on the wrong unit size in case he does host future games. But he was actually fine. He's actually a really nice guy as well. So line chariots as well as the Noble are going to be mopping up the Quarrelers, doing some pretty nice work to them all round. And the front line, the Dwarfs, are simply bogged down by the white lines at this point. A nice little central pocket of strength has formed, as the Dwarfs do form a heroic last stand around Ungrim. We have some miners who have used their blasting charges and a few Slayers pushing forward, trying to get into my juicy back line. But we have many a chariots left, as well as the Noble, Alariel. And in the centre here, we also have one chariot eating up Thunderers, as well as Dwarf Warriors, and another unit of Thunderers. I'm really excited to see the damage value on these chariots, because they've been moving all game. At this point, I get a little bit greedy. This is a little bit worrying. I actually go in to try and assassinate Ungrim. So I come in with my Noble, as well as some chariots, thinking, we'll just burst him down, because what we'll do is heal up with Earthbloods and Star of Avalon. Ungrim cares not for your petty elvish healing. He just starts slapping the Noble. Slapping him, just beating him down. The Noble has to retreat out of the Star. I don't get my full value because despite the Earthblood and the Star, the Noble breaks. Ungrim's just like, I'm coming for you, buddy. There's a grudging. You pissed off my twice removed great cousin once, and I'm here to avenge him. But unfortunately for him, I'm going to cut it back, and we're going to pepper Ungrim down now with an insane amount of bolt fire action. And the archers as well are going to be raining shots into Ungrim. The rest of his forces have decided to break. Arm losses is setting in, and it is the Slayer King against the world. I'm sure that's how he would like to go down, but it looks like my opponent is going to throw in the towel there, and a nice Pyrrhic victory for us. So our first match here, our first matchup was the a 2-0 up against Grenadier, and that put me in really good stead at the start of the tournament. Oh, Ungrim has no flash bombs. Yeah, that's the problem. He needs flash bombs. That's why you don't get to see him as terribly often. That's the best duck I've ever seen. Awesome, man. Yeah, it's a shame the Dwarfs are pretty kind of stuck in their ways, their old ways. I suppose it suits them lore-wise. Well played to Grenadier. His build really did suffer a little bit. I think he's one of the newer players in the tournament. Still did a pretty good job in the mid-game, rallying the Thunderers, and you can see they got some okay damage across the board, but nothing too insane. Bolt throwers are really struggling, as well as the Iron Drake Trollhammer torpedoes. I like the triple slay. I don't actually hate the build, honestly, too much. He needs some giant slayers or a flash bomb or something, though, to help deal with those chariots, because they did run riot. Now, Ungrim Iron Fist is pretty cheap, coming in at 1.2k damage value, so relatively impressive stuff there, but he did kind of carry the squad for the most part, as the rest of the Dowie force did crumble around him. As for our own build, of course, white lines trade pretty effectively here. Not the best damage value on these guys, simply because they got dragged down by a lot of the shooting. The archers performed pretty well, but obviously the main punching power here was the white line chariots. 1.2k damage here with 143 kills. It's disgusting. And 1.2 on the other unit. Still very much near their full health as well, so plenty left to give. And the bolt thrower is not getting the best value, but just shine down the enemy range and force him towards me into the open plains. You never face a White Lion Chariot in the open plain, only a fool would do such a thing. Nobles as well, coming in pretty strong with Alariel, not getting any damage value, but she of course is here for her healing. What's up, Logic_EU, the man, the myth, the legend. No dragon, I'm afraid, Magnus. No dragon today. That final Slayer Marge, though, he went out like a champ. He went out like a champ. Yeah, it's a build roulette, certainly, up against the thoughts of the High Elves. So let's update the scoreboard here so far. So we are now 2-0 in our group games, which is pretty good stuff. So let's hop back in and find my next opponent. I believe it was Vizaresh, who is indeed a YouTuber. So coming in, and once again, we are going to be bringing the forces of the Lizardmen up against his Dark Elves. I think you're going to see pretty much a Lizardman game every other time. I think there was one match I didn't bring Lizardmen, perhaps. Perhaps one. High Elves into Dowie, yeah, he picked Dowie and didn't ban High Elves. So, yeah, it went rather well for me in the end. So let's slow this one down here. So for our forces, we're coming in with a bit of a weird build here, to be honest. So we have some skink cohorts with javelins guarding the flanks, Saurus warriors in that central pocket, and now we're coming in with the double stegos. So we have the ancient stegodon with the engine of the gods. That's right, we're feeling a little bit cheeky today. I was coming in with some nets, coming in with the engine, trying to beam our way through some Black Guard of Nagarons, and yeah, have a little bit of fun with that. I was feeling pretty confident of my first win, or this game was several days later. We have Lord Mazda coming in with Ruination, Banishment, Shield, Apotheosis, Curse of Midnight Wind, and Nets. And we have this sneaky doggos. I used to play with these guys so much, haven't brought them in quite some time, so we're whipping out the Umbral Tide here. And on the flanks, we do have a couple of units of Chameleon Skinks. So it looks like just the two. And then a couple of units of Terran Riders up in the skies to try and pressurize the enemy back line. And once again, we are on Alpine Ridge trying to take this high ground. For the forces of the Dark Elves, we have Dread Spears mixed in with Harganeth Executioners. So bad to the bones, elite Dark Elf infantry with their mighty greatswords are coming in that central pocket. Up in the skies, we have a Supreme Sorceress of Beasts, Flock of Doom, Manticle Summon, Opal Amulet. Cold One Knights, we also have Dark One Riders dotted all the way through the back, so a nice selection of both. 3 Riders, 3 Cold One Knights. And that looks like it's going to be it. So pretty simple build from my opponent, but I do like it. And he is going to be rushing to take the hill as well. Ducky bully newer players. I know, I couldn't help it. There were some newer players that are great, but Vizaresh is a YouTuber himself, by the way. I definitely recommend going and check them out. He's a super nice dude as well, so this was definitely going to be a bit of a tougher fight. Although the Engine of the Gods, we were memeing a little bit, but at the same time, it can be pretty powerful. If we can net, for example, a Harganeth Execution and get a beam down the line, that's some pretty juicy value straight out of the gate. So we're going to be falling back with the Skink cohorts, trying to protect our flanks a little while longer, because what we're trying to do is net the Supreme Sorceress, and then get the Umbral Tide to light her up and do some big burst damage. Her staggering actually kind of protects her a little bit here, and she's popped the Opal Amulet, not taking too much damage. Source Warriors are engaged now in the front line, and this is a fast and furious game, and Dread Spears already starting to push into the back line. We do try to come in with a mighty Engine of the Gods here, testing my opponent's micro, but he is going to be able to escape from the worst of it, and unfortunately, it does look like it's a bit of a whiff, but don't worry, we have 2 casts. The engine perhaps can do good a little bit later on. Lovely Manticore Summon by my opponent is going to be going down on Mazdamundi and distracting the Umbral Tide, allowing the Supreme Sorceress to escape. And Chameleon Skinks on the right hand side, this was some really terrible micro on my behalf, and I saw it happening prior for the game, and I was like, oh no. My Chameleon Skinks are both on the run from the Cold One Knights, and yeah, we're going to be able to kill them and slow them down and do some nice damage, but they're away from all the targets they need to get on, and the Elite Infantry is just carving up my Skinks and Saurus. We do come down with a big fat banishment on the Dark Riders, doing a nice little bit of damage, but more Cold Ones have now looped up and around the flanks, and I'm desperately trying to protect the Umbral Tide. Come on guys, form a little defensive pocket in the centre. The Engine of the Gods is now going toe-to-toe with two Ferromanticores, one of which is a summon, of course, and the other Lord Mazdamundi trying to come in with a bit of an assist, but it is looking very shaky. Umbral Tide come out of the frying pan and literally into the fire of the Harganeth Executioners and get slaughtered. Terran Riders do turn up a little bit late here, One of them is going to be falling back away from the Team Sorceress. The second one has pushed forward. A Ruination goes down once again on the Dark Riders, but another miss. It is all falling apart here, guys. We looked like we were doing so good in the tournament, but the Terran Riders missed their rock drop as well. Dark Shards managed to escape, and I am in full panic mode. Lord Mazdamundi is getting munched on, surrounded by Dread Spears, getting peppered down as well by Dark Riders. I'm charging in Poleorc Sentinels into combat up against other Riders in a desperate attempt to claw my way back into the game. We come down with a Curse of Midnight Wind as well to try and stabilize so he can heal up Mazda. Hope him and the Ancient Stabilion together, the ultimate bromance, can team up and carry us back to victory. In the distance, Cold War Knights still cannot catch Chameleon Skinks. It's actually kind of funny. And value-wise, yeah, this is good for us, but overall, we need the Chameleons over here to pressure the Supreme Sorceress, and the second unit is poking down hard enough executions for now. Shield of the Old Ones does go down on Apotheosis to try and stabilise Lord Mazdamundi. Supreme Sorcerer of the Beast does charge in, doing some really cool attacks onto Maz, and he is surrounded obviously by Spears at the moment and Cold War Knights, and a second Manticore does come in, and Mazdamundi starts to rout, and I concede the game. Oh no, guys. Oh no, our first loss in the tournament, and I can tell you, I was feeling so bad. So horrifically bad after this game. Everything went wrong. I missed every rock drop. I missed every banishment, every burn in alignment. It all was an absolute disaster. I think I was already in a bit of a bad mood when I went to play this game, and I was like grumpy. I was super grumpy after this game. I was like, oh no, I've lost with my dinos. This is where all the losses start flooding in. But very well played to Vizirash, honestly. I'm actually a big fan of his build. Normally, I don't like Dark Rise in this matchup because of Chameleon Skinks, but that meta's kind of shifting, so bringing them back is quite nice, and they got some pretty decent damage across the board. The Manticore pressure combined with the Skirmish pressure and really nice Cold War Knight play. One unit obviously just basically tanked Chameleon Skinks all day and just lost a load of value, but the other two managed to whip around. This one in particular, 1.7k damage value. Oh, that's scary stuff. Hard executions as well, just butchered the front line. We had nothing to stop them. Basically taking no damage, getting 1.2k kills here. The other one not too much, but they were up against Skinks. And the Supreme Sorcerers doing those nice casts of the Manticore Summon. Have a look at our build. The Ancient Stegodon, unfortunately, basically did absolutely nothing. The Umbral Tide suffered as well. I think Mazdamundi's big booty got in the way a little bit, so they couldn't, unfortunately, assassinate the Sorceress. Because these guys actually do like big burst damage, by the way. Don't worry about it. They're still very good. So if we'd managed to get that net properly and burst damage with Chameleon Skink support, that'd be a dead caster, and all of a sudden the game flips on its head because there's no Manticore summons to assault our back line. The Skink Skirmishers were a little bit slow to the party as well, or the flying guys, I should say. And yeah, the Skinksaurus, it basically all went downhill. Mazdamundi still got 1,000 damage value, but I was so tilted, it was really scary. It was really scary. Always felt this matchup as Lizardmen favourite. I think it's relatively even. Cheap A3 from the Jude sheet, yeah, man. Oh, we need some vengeance. So, what do you do in a tournament situation? Let's update the scoreboard here quickly. Let's go to... So, the rest of the world, the group has got a game off us, which is a disaster. So, no perfect run for us. So what do you do when you're feeling tilted, your opponent's got the upper hand on you, and they pick Empire? So he picked Empire, and I was like, oh no, what do I do? Well, if you're feeling bad and want to and you're not feeling on top of your game, what you do is you try and pick your opponent off his game, and oh yes, we counterpick Empire with Empire. I know what you're thinking, the cruelty of the duck here. But I wanted to come back into this game. I was like, alright, I'm ready to go now, and we stole a build as well. So not only did we go Empire, which is a faction I don't play terribly often, Capt Tellus of our clan played recently on a stream with a very similar build to this, perhaps even identical, I can't remember. But I took huge inspiration for it, and I was like, right, we're going to go for a real fun Empire force here. Now, what a lot of players do in this matchup is go very cav heavy, because if you win the cav fight, you can push into the back lines, shut down all those guns, cannons, and so forth. So we're going to completely concede the cavalry game. We're not interested in cavalry whatsoever. We're simply going to focus on our guns. We're going to be a mobile force as well. So not super fast with cavalry, but no cannons, nothing that we're going to have to lug behind us. That's going to be really slow and a good threat. But just tons of cheap range firepower with a bit of an unbreakable front line. So we have spearmen protecting the flanks, as well as some halberdiers protecting the rear, as obviously we have a lot of value in the central pocket. Front line is unbreakable. We have flagellants mixed in with the Sigma Sons, the most devoted of all of Sigma's warriors, who of course are indeed unbreakable. We have a warrior priest running in, leading the troops, as well as a Volkmar the Grim on top of his mighty chariot. Both of them coming in with all of their prayers, banishments, all that good stuff. For our ranged firepower, we have some Free Company Militia in the front line. We have more Free Company Militia as well, and a ton of basic archers. So we have basic archers dotted all the way throughout, as well as some huntsmen. Actually, it looks like maybe we only brought one archer. Maybe I'm mistaken. It looks like a couple of archers, a couple of huntsmen, and in the very central pocket, the key feature piece of our force is the silver bullets. These guys have stalk, magic damage, which won't really be a threat here, but huge armor piercing to try and bring down enemy knights. And leading our force, we do have a light wizard coming over net and Thar's protection. The idea, of course, to net demigryphs and normal knights in place. Double Empire, don't often see that one. Yeah, man, it's pretty crazy. Oh, Vizarush is here! The man, the myth, the legend is just speaking about you as well. Well played in that first game. The second game, my opponent says he had no idea what to do, but you never know. It looks like he's got quite a tasty build. In the back, we do have the Deathjacks as well in stalk, just to try and put pressure on top of any cannons and so forth that my opponent may bring. His front line is relatively similar to us, although he has mixed in a couple of swordsmen as well alongside the Sigma Suns. Nice unbreakable with spearmen on the flanks. He has also gone for triple huntsmen, so a nice little bit of ranged pressure, but unlike me, he has gone for cavalry in the form of some basic Empire Knights. 1, 2, 3 dotted along the back there, as well as 2 Outriders on this side. And I was really worried these guys were grenade launchers, because they would tear apart my army with deadly efficiency. Caster-wise here, we have a Death Wizard with Spirit Leech, which is really good, although not necessarily so good up against Volkmar. And leading his forces, he has Marcus Wolfheart, which I think is a really competitive pick here. He's coming with his Amber Bow, Focus Shot, as well as Hunter's Snare, Fleet-footed, all that good stuff. And he can certainly focus down key targets. He can counteract artillery rather well as a lot of the Empire characters. And he's going to be just poking at Volkmar all day. I think it'd be a better idea to focus down the Light Wizard first, so therefore taking away any of the magic damage I can do. Maybe pop on onto the Warrior Priest. But Volkmar's certainly going to be a tough one to take down, because Huntsmen are going to have to get busy. Our archers are going to loose a few arrows into the flagellants. I'm absolutely fine with this. Company militia as well are shooting shots in. These guys have 0 armor, so if we can whittle them down before they actually hit us, I am definitely fine with that. Volkmar was going to dart in and try and do some nice damage, but he has taken huge burst shots there from Marcus Wolfheart. He's having to actually fall back. Of course, he does have regeneration though, so it's not the end of the world. Free Company Militia are going to be falling back past their spear line as Hunters do shoot in and rain fire down on the Flagellants. Well, I do spot the Outriders as well, so we will be switching our target to them. And a lot of our units are starting to retreat back. Warrior Priest does go forward, and he is fueled with the fury of Sigma right now. Just going straight into the enemy line, unsupported, he does not care. Although he is supported by missile pressure. Free Company Militia and Huntsmen firing shots up and over. And you can see our defensive formation is holding currently. Volkmar consistently having to fall back away from the main battle line, however. And really nice play by my opponent here. Getting his Huntsman up and actually targeting down my ranged troops is a really good way into this game. Empire Knights crashing into the front line onto one of my weak spots, the Spearmen, who aren't unbreakable and of course can break. But it looks like we do pop our first net of Amantok down in range of the silver bullets. These knights certainly not going to be having a good day whatsoever. Now, there are some spearmen pushing through, which is a little bit scary. But these knights are now getting absolutely shredded from all angles. Not actually taking the most amount of damage. But I'm sure in 1 or 2 more good volleys, that will be coming into play. Sigma Suns are going to be plugging the gap with Volkmar now as well. Right in the back line, the Deathjacks are still jogging over. They're going to take a little while to get here, but them shooting to the Huntsman, if my opponent doesn't notice them, is absolutely awesome stuff. It looks like my backline starting to crumble a little bit. Huntsmen and archers are being shut down, but this is the main bonus of not having all your range in one location. So he's done a really good job breaking into this side, but now the other side is completely and utterly happily fine. Shooting shots into Empire Knights who are getting terrified, butchered. These brave men of the Empire dragged into the muck and mud and stomped on in their lovely shining armor. And the entire right side of my opponent's build has started to collapse, and therefore we can reconsolidate, reform our battle lines here in a central force, and continue to rain fire down upon my enemy. Looks like the Light Wizard is going to be popping a little net down on top of some more knights who are threatening to push in on top of these silver bullets. Huntsmen as well as Free Company Militia are now going to turn to engage and start unleashing hell upon these bad boys. Good play of the Outriders though. They've managed to whip around and they're away from any kind of dangerous targets, but they don't have too many good opponents themselves. No knights or anything like that for them to actually take down. And Volkmar, seen at this right hand side of the map, is completely free from enemy missile pressure. He's just going to float over here, heal up and get some lovely free juicy kills. That Warrior Priest is still he's just gone in. He doesn't care about this defensive stuff from the rest of the Empire. He's just charging in, trying to take these guys on toe to toe, and he's doing a pretty good job of it. In the back line, the sneaky and cheeky Deathjacks do get some lovely damage on the Huntsman before my opponent does turn and just annihilates these guys. They need to get out of here as quickly as possible, but at least they're distracting them from the main fight, which is all good for me. Balance power still very even though, and this game can certainly go either way, as it looks like, this is what we want to do. If you have ranged skirmish cav, don't be scared to chuck them into combat up against units such as archers. You'll break them with the sheer weight of the charge. Lovely little charge in, making them waver, but does pull back a little bit early. Understandably so, as more archers do a little bit of crossfire onto these guys. And crossfire is the aim of the game with this build. We have some Empire Knights returning to the fray, looking to get into this sneaky back pocket. Luckily for myself, though, I did notice it a little bit late. And who's standing in the centre? The true leader of the army? Not Volkmar. No, it is the Light Wizard. You just spy of his little eye, these Empire Knights, so a lot of my troops should be able to turn around and engage, hopefully, if I drop a net in time. At least I think I drop a net. It looks like it's getting danger close. There we go. We call down a net from the heavens. Archers do fall back, and in come the spearmen with the counter charge. Spears down, jumping after their enemy, and Free Company Militia as well as Silver Bullets can now turn and fire in. Balance power for the first time in the battle going into my favour. Volkmar is simply running over troops here in the back, having an absolute whale of a time. Spearmen as well is being used to push off as many units as possible. So my opponent starts to make a last-ditch stand with the Marcus as well as the Huntsman. We actually have a banishment here just to see if he's paying attention with his Huntsman. It looks like he is going to be able to get out the way of it just in time. And the Deathjacks are going to return to the field just to do a little bit more damage in the back ranks. Spearmen find Spearmen. This is the true fight you want to see. So let's get a nice little close-up. Don't care about the rest of the awesome stuff going on. Men with spears poking each other. This is the glorious stuff. They'll just getting some kicks in there for a bit of a laugh. War Priest is going to be rallying his troops, falling back, trying to break up some of the unbreakable troops. Sigma Sons are indeed fighting Sigma Sons as well, although mine are currently far, far healthier. And my opponent is shooting into the Huntsman. These guys do have quite a nice spread out formation though, so they'll not be taking too much damage, and as long as Volkmar isn't taking those shots, I'm very comfortable, because Volkmar can solo everything else in the build if he's not being focus fired down by those pesky troops. In the back line, once again, my opponent tries to repeat the trick he did before of getting the Outriders in combat. This time, though, I have learnt my lesson, dropping a net on top of them and then come in with the Spearmen and turning around with Silver Bullets and Free Company Militia to rain fire from afar. And all of a sudden, Bounce Power is going very heavily in my favour. Deathjacks up to 21 kills, poking and did, just good pressure to the Huntsman all round. I don't think they're going to get the craziest damage value, but they're just a nuisance, and it makes you have to, always in your back of your mind, they're there, and you want to be able to deal with them. Spearmen are now darting forward into the Huntsman. Warrior Priest is jogging a little bit more lackadaisically. Huntsmen are now focusing down the characters. This wizard, of course, is on horseback, so that little nice anti-large will certainly come into effect. And we've managed to rally our entire troops on this right-hand side. Volkmar getting very close now. He did drop a few Spirit Leeches onto Volkmar, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, 40% magic resistance means Volkmar's basically going to be taking very little damage whatsoever from a Spirit Leech. And now the march of the Empire is on. The drummers are drumming, flags are being waved, battle cries are being sung as we push forward to finish off the enemy Empire. And we're going to, history is painted by the victor, so we're going to say these guys are the rogues of the Empire. They were the traitors, they were the rebels, and we've come in for under Sigma's name to restore peace to our new Empire and galaxy. Deathjacks are now getting finished off. They did get 48 kills though, and okay damage value. They're not too expensive themselves. The Huntsman now being hunted down and judged by the Warrior Priest, who can't quite catch them. His hammer is actually pretty cool, the Glen Magic Hammer, as he jogs after these guys who desperately flee and try and get out of the way where possible. More Spearmen are going to be pushing up, as well as the Halberdiers, who are full health at this point, haven't had to get their Halberdiers too wet yet. Warrior Priest does, of course, call down the wrath of Sigma upon his enemies. Although he's getting a few parting shots from Marcus Wolfhart in the flank, he is not enjoying that whatsoever. But Marcus did eventually get in range of some of our Silver Bullets and other units. In the distance, Free Company Militia do finish up some Spearmen, and we're just a slow pushing wall of death, of so many spears pointing out from all directions, so many guns. It's really quite hard to deal with, and I'm actually a massive fan of this Empire build. Volkmar the Grim does push through, arrows break, his army does start to shatter, and that is going to be a victory for ourselves. We redeem ourselves, and it shall be 1-0. So, pretty good stuff there up against Vizaresh. Really cool dude, and as I said before, he is a YouTuber, so make sure to go check him out. He is covering some of the Warhammer World Championship content as well. If he's still in chat, feel free to drop a link to your channel as well down below. But he did manage to take a game off me, which is very impressive stuff. It was the first game I lost, and I particularly enjoyed his Dark Elf build. This Empire build, I think, is a very meta way, I suppose, I want to say, of playing this. I can see a lot of people bring Marcus, cheap knights, a load of AP with Huntsmen and Outriders as well. He did a pretty good job. I think he said he didn't really know how to play this matchup, but I thought he did rather well, and it was only a Pyrrhic victory. There was some real sketchy moments where he started to break and crumble my left flank, got into the cookie jar a little bit, and really started shutting down archers, but I was able to stabilise that right-hand side, rotate my build round, and once again reform the ranks, reform the line, as King Theoden would say, and then from there on we can continue to rain fire from afar. Marcus Wolfhart, 2.3k damage value, just sat on Volkmar the whole day, unleashing shots, shot the Warrior Priest. I think going after Volkmar was a bit of a mistake though, because I'm so fast I can simply jog away on my chariot, regenerate that health back up, and you can see Volkmar had a lot of health in the end game. I think assassinating the wizard would have been the best way to go, therefore the knights are a lot more of a threat into the back lines as well as those outriders. Apart from that, obviously not going to be doing huge damage with these spearmen as they kind of just butt heads up against other spearmen and the like. His Sigma Sun's getting 667, ours only 500. Oof, looks like we were found out as the fake ones there. Huntsman doing pretty decent damage, but yeah, the Empire Knights and the Outriders, I think the Outriders basically have to be used as a combat unit here because they had no good targets, so they needed to get in there and shut us down. Volkmar the Grim didn't really get any damage value. He just floated around the whole day, just taking shots. But that's absolutely fine. I'm not too fussed by that. He was dropping his buffs, surviving to the late game, helping us with that balance of power, and still, pretty much full health at the end. So he could have soloed a lot of the end stuff if he was still alive. The Light Wizard was the real MVP though, dropping those fat nets at the right times onto those knights. War Priest got 69 kills, Bow Chicka Bow Wow, all in the name of Sigma, I'm sure. And the Spearmen, of course, didn't do too much with the Halberds. Front lines just bumped and grinded up against each other. The real kind of damage output for us, Archers doing pretty good work across the board, as well as the Free Company Militia, particularly this unit. 800 damage values, very good stuff. Deathjacks got 666. And the Huntsman came in 1.3k damage value, 600, and Silver Bullets 1.3. Real nice build. All round, this is, of course, I said before, a stolen build. This is Captellus's build, so all credit really should go for him, and managed to drag me out there. Sigma, forgive me! I'm sure he does, man. You played a great game. What's up, Ice Power? How's it going? Oh, yeah, man. War Hydras are such a pain to deal with. Ice Power, the man, the myth, the legend, the Dark Elf God of War. If you guys have any questions about Dark Elves, please send them to his way. He's a very nice guy, so I'm sure he'll be happy to explain all their stuff in chat to you. GG's, yeah man, Vizresh, honestly, awesome stuff, awesome stuff. So let's update the scoreboard quickly. So currently, against my group, I am 3-1 after 4 games. And up next, my next opponent will be Shirin. After that, we have Gwak, which, guys, the games against Gwak are mental. I don't want to hype them up too much. I'm tempted to put them at the end of the stream, but I'm going to be playing in chronological order. But the games against Gwak, I may cast them separately anyway, even though we're showing them on stream today, because they were wild. So up next we do have Shirin, and I believe Shirin again was one of the newer players. It's good to see these newer players coming into the game, and it looks like we are doing Lizardmen versus Wood Elves, and then followed by Norsca up against his Skaven. So we'll have to see how we do fare here. Let's hop in and enjoy. So of course, as I said guys, Lizardmen, Alpine Ridge, you're going to see it over and over and over again. It's really useful. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Cool, I thought I'd done a rule break, then brought too many shoot units. So up first, we will be doing Lizardmen versus Wood Elves. I absolutely despise this matchup from both sides. Now, I think it's relatively balanced, but it becomes this big shoot fest, and we decided to go relatively meta here. I didn't want to do anything too crazy. I do like going very cavalry heavy here, but instead we decided to try to shoot the enemy down. So we do have 4 units of the Chameleon Skinks. Hopefully we can guard them a little bit better than we did up against the Dark Elves. Our front line is Skink cohort mixed in with Saurus Warriors with spears. You don't really need the basic Saurus Warriors. These guys will do just fine up against Dryads and Eternal Guard, and are helpful up against all those pesky Stag Knights and the like. We have double Cold One Riders in the back as well to try and help support, and then 3 big fat dinos. We have double Bastillodon with Solar Engine, and Lord Mazda Mundi looking to avenge himself. He has returned from the Ether where he did reign. We have the Ruination, we have Banishment, and again it's the standard toolkit we like: Apotheosis, Curse of Midnight Wind, Net of Amantalk, and the Sunburst standard. Missile Resistance, of course, very key up against the Wood Elf forces. Now for my opponent's build, it's pretty meta stuff. We have a load of Eternal Guard dotted throughout, which is pretty cheap, pretty cheerful, happy to be here. And then we have a ton of Glade Guard. We have some basic ones and some Hagbane tips. I definitely recommend the Starfire Shafts here. So it looks like just basic ones. You definitely want Starfire Shafts. They've got much better AP. And in general, as a rule of thumb, Lizardmen have pretty decent armor because they're very scary, scaly skin. We have a Waystalker up in the skies. We have a Sisters of Twilight floating into battle. Eagle Quiver has been picked. They also have the Conjoined Destiny and, yeah, all that good stuff on the Mighty Dragon. We do have War Dancers with Azrai Spears hidden in the trees on the left-hand side. One of the best-looking units in the entire game. Not to gush, but we have two Glade Riders over the right-hand side. But yeah, look at these badass warrior ladies. Look at them, like all tattooed up, ready for war. They have some crazy attack animations as well. Certainly one of the best-looking units in the entire game. We have Sisters of Thorn in the central pocket. No caster. Okay, that's an interesting play. I think they actually messaged me after and said they forgot a caster. So it's not like they didn't know to bring one. I believe they just forgot, unfortunately. Yeah, it's best of two. You play, well, you play both the games. It's like round robin, and you play everyone in your group twice. And I think it was kind of seeded. So people who are at the top of the list, there was Guac, then me, then everyone else. You had to pick them down first, but you got to pick a map. But there was only like 4 maps to pick from, and they were all really bad for Lizardmen apart from this map, which is why I picked it so often. Nice big breath attack comes down, actually just destroys a ton of chameleon skinks. Big burst damage coming in, and the Sister's already up to 8 kills, not doing too shabby whatsoever, considering chameleon skinks normally are a pain to deal with. And I noticed my opponent was playing really passively and defensively, wanted to give me the high ground, so I'm okay with that. We're just going to move up the Garys. We can hide Mazdamundi and so forth underneath this hill with our Cold One Riders. Move up the Garys and then start raining fire down on the Glade Guard, although it looks like they were duped there. Chameleon Skinks peppering down these Sisters. I realised he didn't have a life cast. I was like, maybe he has one hidden in the trees, but if he doesn't, it's good to get some early damage on them because, of course, there will be no healing. I believe they do have a Conjoined Destiny, but Conjoined Destiny, I think, is actually... I like the system of it, where you have to survive for a while, but it doesn't often get popped. The Garys of Soul Engine now getting their eyes in a little bit better, trying to focus on the Glade Guard, not doing too much damage. I was a little bit worried at this point, because I hadn't really managed to make any connection shots with the Garys, and one of them is in fact obstructed, but now he fires in himself, and gets a much better shot. Look at that, Elves burnt to cinder, you love to see it. Losing quite a few models out the gate. Chameleons as well, darting their shots up onto the Sisters of Twilight, did some really nice work, and slowly peppering them down, so yeah. Chameleons, although I'm going to get ambushed here by the Glade Riders. Now, this is some scary stuff, so I'm going to fall back, try and counter push with the Cold One Spear Rise and deter my enemy from coming in, as he wants to. What he wants to do is go for an attack order, go into combat up against the Chameleons, otherwise I get kited. So as he pushes in, I spring my trap, Cold One Spear Rise come round to the edge of the mountain, and charge headlong into the Glade Guard. We are actually going to be able to catch them, and that will be a slaughter. They do manage to fall back. Good micro from my opponent, pulls back relatively early. Although they are getting peppered down by chameleons, slowed by poison, allowing the Cold One Riders to feast upon their souls. My opponent is now starting to push up a little bit more, Eternal Guard getting a bit more aggressive, realising that they are losing the range fight because he's not getting within range of the Bastiladons. This is where if you have like 3 units of Starfire Shafts, you move them up and you focus down one Bastiladon, then the next. Mazdamundi hasn't really had to get engaged in combat too much yet. Point blank range shot does go into the Eternal Guard, sending them back down the hill from whence they came. Mazdamundi should be getting up in action at this point. On the left-hand side, Skink Coat of Javelins did push up just to try and get a little bit of free value up against the Glade Guard, but do get annihilated in return by the static Wood Elf forces at the moment. Mazdamundi has now crescented the hill, running over some of those Eternal Guard, sending them away as they are terrified, allowing the Bastiladon to recuperate a little bit and get those shots in. This one up to 33 kills, the other one at 39 so far, and it's a pretty slow, ponderous game, but that's how this matchup goes, and I guess one of the reasons I'm not the biggest fan of it. It looks like we are going to be dropping a banishment in the back lines on top of the Glade Guard, getting some lovely value there. This unit probably is going to be breaking now. It's just sitting on top of them, feasting upon them, sucking up those souls. Nom nom nom, Mazdamundi very happy with that one. More Glade Guard as well can slowly come back. We're going to get a little more aggressive. Skinks are going to be committing Sword Swords as well, pushing forward towards the hill. We're playing pretty patiently, but you know, I'm not too fast. I'm relatively in control at the moment, relatively comfortable. Skink Colts with Javelins are going to be focused on the Glade Guard, whilst the Chameleon Skinks do push up and pressurize the Sisters Blade. Lovely breath attack. Oh my god. That was about as good as you can get for a breath attack right down the line, breaking 2 units of Chameleons. Sisters up to 83 kills. My opponent's done that really well all game with those breath attacks, and he still has 1 more left in the bank. Balance power is still pretty dead even. There's a lot of archers left available. Cold One Riders have managed to push in and feast upon the souls of one of them, and the War Dancers have started to commit to the fight, but up against Skink cohorts, they're not going to be having such a good day. In the distance, Cold One Spear Riders did manage to break off and scare off the Glade Riders, but now are having to retreat back from the Eternal Guard. Chameleon Skinks are rallying, and it's a pretty close game, honestly, guys. It could go either way. The Garys fighting strong on top of the hill, but they are distracted right now, not shooting their shots as they should do. Always shoot your shot, guys. And the Bastiladon is now looking to do some real carnage. And Glade Guard getting pretty weak in the back line, which is fantastic news for me, because they're the big damage output apart from the Sisters in my opponent's build. Chameleon Skinks did manage to wrap around the flank here, do some really nice damage onto the Glade Guard, and now we're just going to try and focus fire down at the Glade Riders as they attempt to run us over, tread our poor little Skinks into the mud with their mighty hooves. But yeah, not too fussed by this. If they catch us a little bit, that's cool. We'll just continue to poison them and kite them down, basically. Sisters up in the sky now on their dragon. I think they need to get into the action a little bit more, get in some combats, float over here, delete these Saurus spears, who are kind of standing there just taking damage at the moment from these Sisters, fly around the battlefield, jump on top of these Skinks, get real aggressive as far as possible, come over here, save the Glade Riders, and I think the Wood Elves player would be in a pretty good situation. He's playing a little passive. War Dancers do surround Mazdamundi. Mazdamundi does not care about your pesky little wooden sticks. He is a mighty god, and of course he is riding Zlak, the true leader of the Empire forces. The Solar Engines do burst some shots into the Sisters. I saw that they were pushing, perhaps looking to finally get a little more aggressive and hop on top of the Bastiladon, so we're not having any of that. We're going to be firing some shots in, forcing her away where possible. I mean, most of the back line is now in ruins, as the balance power does go in our favour. Saurus Spears are pushing back the Sisters at Avalon. Not Sisters Avalon, Sisters at Thorn, and the Glade Guard are running all over the field, but still plenty of time for them to rally. I'm not really able to chase them down with too many troops. We're looking pretty beleaguered ourselves. Chameleon Skinks do a good job on those Glade Riders, though, finishing them up, but having 3 big Terracores and Dinos late game is very scary for anyone, but particularly Wood Elves when you're out of ammunition. Lord Mazdamundi spots the Waystalker, goes down here to say hello. And, yeah, hello. Shoves him over, pushes him away, and, yeah, that Waystalker obviously isn't going to be able to duel Lord Mazdamundi rather well. Waystalker is terrified and broken. Sister Twilight taking huge burst damage now. This Bastiladon 61 kills and a Chevron. This one at 41. Slightly less good, but still pretty good. And more Eternal Guard are now driving up the hill trying to hunt down the Bastiladons. So these little Skinks on the side are actually going to be launching some javelins into them, and the morale is very low at this point, meaning that a big old ramrod charge from the Bastiladon should be enough to break them. Chameleon Skinks, again, just being pesky, forcing my opponent to deal with them, running around, kiting Eternal Guard, taking a decent amount of damage as well. My opponent's, ushered them rather well throughout the course of the battle, but it hasn't quite been able to finish them off, which is a bit of a big problem for him. Balance Power is getting very close to army losses at this point, as a lot of the Wood Elf forces do lose heart and start retreating. And on the back burner, we do have some Saurus Spearmen chasing off Glade Guard, and now engaging with the Sisters of Thorn, who have decided that it's now time to engage in hand-to-hand combat, but up against a spear unit, although they may be able to break them with a nice charge, although they're taking a considerable amount of damage to commit such an act of violence. Saurus Spears will be engaging the Eternal Guard. Mazdamundi is going to join them probably. Actually, he's going to fly over here and help break up the weaker units, because he's got not too much to worry about at this point, as the higher forces do start to break, as the Sisters take one too many burst shots to the face. Good play by my opponent, though. That was a patient game. Both between myself and Shirin, and we basically played it in the most super meta way possible. Is you sit there with a load of Chameleons and Bastiladons, and you shoot a load of Glade Guard, and the Glade Guard shoot back. Definitely think Starfire Shafts are doing better. Even if you have to drop a unit or 2 of Glade Guard, you need those Starfires. The added armor piercing is really key. All around, though, really good play. So apart from changing that, so it needs Starfire Shafts, it needs a Wizard as well. Apart from that, played pretty good. Honestly, the Sisters of Twilight did some big burst damage, 138 kills, 1.7k damage value. Not quite enough, though, because on their Dragon, they're very expensive. If they're on the Eagle, this would have been far more impressive. And to be honest, they didn't really land, although the Breath Attacks did do some good work throughout. Eternal Guard obviously suffered a little bit, and unfortunately my favourite Azrai Spears, only 27 kills. The Glade Guard as well didn't really manage to pay for themselves, unfortunately, or at least not most of them, due to the fact they were shooting into Skinks and Chameleons a lot of the game. Good Glade Rider play for the most part, getting some pretty decent damage value, 800 over here. Sisters of Thorn as well, 81 kills, but unfortunately just a little bit too passive from my opponent. For my own forces, of course, the Garys, they're going to be MVPs, 1.7k damage value here, 1.3 on the second unit, gaining a Chevron, not 2 Chevrons. Actually, did he gain a Chevron? Maybe he didn't gain a Chevron, actually, but still, 61, 71 kills, just took the key components of my opponent's build away from him, and then from that point onwards, Mazdamundi's absolutely fine, and he can kind of destroy everything. The Riders as well did okay, although one of them getting kind of in a cat and mouse chase with Glade Riders never ends well for any carry, particularly the slow, ponderous Cold One Knights. Chameleon Skinks did okay across the board, nothing too crazy, and that's kind of the story of this battle. Nothing did amazing, everything just did a little bit average, but it shall be a big victory for myself and the force of the Lizardmen. 11,000 damage on Mazdamundi, plenty of health left at the end of stages as well, so you could come back and do some pretty decent work. So far in the tournament, we are up to 4-1 against the group. Will we fare any better in the next game? Let's have a little look and find out. Boy, the Wood Elves, I'm assuming, are a pain to play against. Man, Wood Elves are a big pain to play against, for sure. So yeah, we have Showing up next, then 2 games with Guac, 2 versus Kamikaze, 2 versus Haruno. Should be some good fun. In this game, my opponent picked Skaven. We're going to be coming in with the ferocious forces of Norsca. Who's your money on, guys? Do you reckon we can pull this out the bag, or are we going to struggle? Let's load in here and find out. We are going to be on Schwesterhafen, and my opponent wanted a big, wide map, obviously, for going at the defensive force that is the Skaven. I mean, Skaven can go aggressive or defensive, honestly. They can do whatever. But, you know, big map, you tend to see them go quite range heavy. Have a little drink of water there. How are you guys faring as well? I would like to hear your stories of the Warhammer World Championships now that the group stages are being wrapped up. I believe the deadline is actually tonight, or maybe tomorrow. So for our forces, pretty simple stuff. We have Marauders dotted through the front line, mixed in with a load of Berserkers, going very, very wide, looking to swarm my opponent where possible. And on either flank, we have 2 units of Skinwolves. Skinwolves, pretty ferocious, deadly, regeneration, very fast. They're basically good against everything in the Skaven roster, so I'm a big fan of them there. We also have a ton of Marauder Javelins in the back, 3 units in fact. These guys need to support the Skinwolves if your opponent has Hell Pit Abominations, or just an insane number of Rat Ogres, Packmasters, all that type of pesky stuff. We're coming in with a Shaman Sorcerer of Fire. We have Burning Head, Flame Sword Ruin, and a Fireball. Skinwolf Werekin, as well as Wolfric the Wanderer, of course, coming with his boat. We have Fight or Die and Hunter of Champions. I was trying out the Skinwolf Werekin in this matchup. It's a lord I don't use terribly often, but one I think can certainly be very powerful, especially here, to help counter Brood Horrors and that kind of good stuff. Let's go to our planners. We are going to be advanced here. My opponent does come with Warblock Jezzails, of course the Avalanche Mortars, Plague Claw Catapults, more Jezzails, and then a ton of Slaves to defend them, dotted all the way throughout. With a couple of Clan Rats in the back. We have Iska's Triads, Pit Fighters of Hell's Deep, we have an Assassin, and we also have Ittic Claw on my favourite mount, which is his little Doomflayer here. He's going to be rolling forward and cackling. And you can see some big burst damage is going to come in. Warblock Jezzails, though, focusing on the wrong targets. I kind of hit Marauders, and the Avalanche Mortars were actually going after the Shaman Sorcerer, which obviously isn't the right way of doing it. Should be the other way round at the moment. I'm sure my opponent will switch that in just a second. And in Deep Reserve, he also has an Assassin actually hidden away there in the trees, and some Wolf Rats on the flank. Skinwolves are going to be engaging with the wrong enemy. I mean, they're tear free Skaven Slaves just fine, not really taking any damage, but really I want to be looping them a little bit more up and around to pressurise my enemy. And now the Avalanche Mortar is really slaughtering my Marauders, doing some massive burst damage to them. Ittic Claw, though, gets dumpstered by a combination of Wolfric the Wanderer and the Skinwolf Werekin. Immediately decides to flee where possible as the Warlock Jezzails continue to rain fire in. And it looks like we are overextending just a little bit here. Wolfric is in endangered territory. Ittic Claw is simply no joke. And it looks like Plague Claw Catapult as well is focusing down my Marauders now as well, doing some pretty scary stuff. Berserkers just aren't going to make it to the front line. And this is a bit of a disaster for me so far. Our Lords are a little over-isolated. All of our troops are failing to make it to the front line. But good news on this left-hand flank. Berserkers are going to be tearing Warlock Jezzails asunder, and 2 Skinwolves have forced their way into the back pocket. We're actually going to be charging the Pitfires of Hell's Deep, which may seem like an odd move. These guys do, of course, themselves come in with a Frenzy. They're a pretty good utility tool. But I want to get the charge on them. I don't want to let them charge me. And if I get the charge on them, they'll be far, far squishier. Ittic Claw just about escapes the wrath of the Skinwolf Werekin, and those mortars are doing some really nice burst damage to their friends here. Up to 38 kills, but a lot of those as well have been their own Skaven troops. They've not had the best of days, as Skinwolves have started to force their way through the flanks. The Werekin as well pushing in onto those Skaven slaves, and in the back, Pitfires of Hell's Deep simply out monster mashed here as the werewolves do roar victorious, howling into the night as the Pit Fighters are forced off here. The Jezzails are being chased away by Marauders. A big fat fireball hits Ittic Claw before he is jumped by a gang of werewolves. Not a good day for him, and this is looking like a disaster for my opponents. We shovel our way through the front lines. Assassin, or the Chieftain, sorry, has engaged now with the Berserkers, but it's simply going to get killed. Assassin hasn't even made it in time to the battle, which is a big problem for him. Plague Claw Catapults up to only 15 kills, trying to focus fire down the Hunters where possible. But Wolfric is here, he's angry, he's challenging these catapults, and he's already managed to destroy one piece. With the Avalanche Mortars also shattering, it is looking like a very early game over. But Ittic Claw has managed to rally on this right-hand side, trying to grab some of his slaves back into the fight. We do come in with a Burning Head just to roast a few of those ratties. Not really doing much damage, but at this point, I was feeling very comfortable. Thought I would just try and inflict some damage to push the balance of power in my favour as quickly as possible. Javelins are launching shots in onto the Triads, which, you know, Triads currently are fighting Skinwolves and Wolfric, which is very bad news for me. We have Berserkers in here as well. We're carving our way through them. We get some lovely attack animations on these Ninja Rats as they try their best. But, yeah, Berserkers, they're living the Ragnar Lothbrok style here and really carving their way through their enemy. who do decide to flee for their lives. Can't blame them. Of course, they are only little rats at the end of the day. Warlock Elves have found a nice little sniping position on top of the hill. They've got out their pack lunches and just viewing the battlefield from afar, popping a few shots in, doing some damage to some Marauders, but look who's here. Oh yes, more Marauders, and that's the problem with my build for Skaven. There's just so many troops running at you from all angles. It's really hard to actually pin everything in place, even if you do a lot of good range, long-range firepower from the start. There's still a lot of troops kind of floating left, right, and centre. So that was more of a dominant performance by me. Well played to Sheeran anyway. I think he had a pretty good tournament throughout and maybe qualified as well. I'll have to look at the table at the end. I think Iron Thunder is going to be putting up in our group chat relatively soon towards the end. But yeah, that was probably the most comfortable victory we've had so far. And it was up against Skaven, believe it or not. Skaven are a pretty scary force. Arguably the best faction in the game, I would say. But we did a decent job up against them. Claw overextended massively at the start, looking to do a bit of free cycle charging, which is a good way to use him. But if Wolfric is there with 100 champions and a Skinwolf Werekin is there, you're in big problems, buddy. Assassin as well, of course, just couldn't get to the field in time. And, yeah, Skaven Slayers and Clarets are here to die. The Triads did okay. And let's have a little look at the damage stats of the Giselles. Not fantastic. Not fantastic on anything, to be honest. That's because a little bit of mess up, I think, with the targeting. So my main advice, of course, get those avalanches, pop them directly on those berserkers. Finish off both berserkers. I think the Capults managed to finish off one because it got really beat up before it got there. But get your Giselles on top of the Skinwolf Werekin, Wolfric, and the Shaman. Probably the Shaman first, actually. And then allow the Mortar and the Plagueclaw Catapult to kill the Marauders and Berserkers instead. Because otherwise, this happens. Big kills across the board. Wolfric doing okay, as well as the Skinwolf Werekin. But just a ton of Marauders. Damage kind of spread out quite nicely. Oh my god. 2,500 damage value from this unit, Berserkers, though they certainly got into the cookie jar rather nicely. Hunters weren't really needed at the end, but they're nice to have them in your back pocket, just in case there was a lot of large beasties on the battlefield. And the Skinwolves, did what they needed to do, but a pretty dominant position. What's up, Blackthorn? How's it going, man? Quack to you. We are going to update the scoreboard now. So we have gone up to 5-1, which is some really cool stuff for us. Putting us in a commanding position. I believe at this point we were relatively near the top of the group, but there was a big, scary player lurking in the wings. And oh yes, it's time. It is time, I believe, hopefully. Yes, it is. To face off against the legend, the God of War, the ECL finalist, Quack, representing ITO. I'll tell you guys, I was pretty scared. I'm not going to lie. He's a very good player. And I was like, oh no. If he just absolutely hammers me, there's no way I can finish. I'd dropped a game at this point to Viseresh. I don't think I'd lost by this point. Like any of his other games. And I was like, oh no, I feel like Quack's probably got a good chance of taking the group. Viseresh may take second, and then all of a sudden I'm going to be in all sorts of problems. So we are going to be bringing the Wood Elves up against Quack's Greenskins in Game 1. And Game 2 shall be between my ever-loyal Lizardmen and Quack's Bretonian forces. So let's hop in here and have a little look at the battle. Let's have a little sip as well on my drink. That is the good stuff. So, Quack going to be bringing Grom, myself going to be bringing Durfu. It's a pretty fun build. We are going to be taking place here on the battlefield of Eschen, which is certainly quite big and open. I wasn't too fussed with whatever the map was. As long as I've got Alpine Ridge for my Lizardmen, I am rather happy. Looks like we're actually looking from his point of view here, so we go over our own forces first, as we are, this is a replay from him, I guess. I've loaded his one in. So we have a Eternal Guard dotted through the front line, as well as a couple of units of Dryads to try and chew their way through the enemy a bit quicker. In fact, I think just the one unit. We also have a unit of War Dancers. Now, War Dancers I've already spoken about, look absolutely badass, but they're pretty good here as well. Anti-infantry, saturate them on top of the Eternal Guard, and they'll chew through a lot of what the Greenskin forces can build. And apart from the Eternal Guard, who hold the line rather well, I wanted some damage dealing infantry, so them combined with the Dryads were kind of my meat grinders for the main part. Protecting the flanks, we have some Glade Riders with spears. Now, their job is to not get aggressive. They are here to sit back, defend my bowline where possible. Greenskins, arguably the best swarming faction in the game, certainly one of them. And I've brought bows, so you know what that means. That kind of combo is pretty bad for me, so I have to protect my archers at all costs. We have Glade Guard of Starfire Shafts. Looks like we have 4 units, in fact, one of which, though, does have the Hagbane tip instead. And in the middle pocket, we have the ultimate romance behind Orion's back. Ariel is dating Durfu, who's going to be plodding towards the battlefield. Sword of Daith in hand, Transformation of Kadon, and Flock of Doom. Ariel herself, Ariel the OP, that's coming with Berry Wine, as well as the Acorn of the Oak of Ages, Soul Sealer, and Apotheosis. So, pretty expensive spells, though. I think honestly, going Branch Wraith may be a little bit better in this matchup. Gwak does bring what I kind of feared he would bring. This is certainly like the most meta thing at the moment, and is maybe actually it's a little less on the Trolls, but pretty much what you do up against the force of the Wood Elves with greenskins. You get a bucket ton of Forest Goblin Spider Riders. We have 2 down here, a load of archers as well, combined with some more Spider Riders looking to dart into the back line. Front line, you go relatively cheap and cheerful. We have Orc Boys dotted all the way along. These guys just happy to be here, ready for a good old fat scrap to get that war popping. Oh my god, that guy's hairstyle is horrendous. What? Oh, it's a hat. It's a hat. Don't worry, it's a leather hat. Okay, we're saved. In the very back, he has 2 units of Savage Orc Biggins as well to bring the pain up against Wild Riders and other such units. He does have a bit of a deck line. We have the Rusty Arrows as well as some Goblin Archers. And then we have 2 units of Stone Trolls. We have an Orc Shaman coming in with Fist of Gork and Brainbuster. And Grom the Paunch. And Grom, certainly the best Greenskin Lord pick here in my humble opinion. He has Regeneration, making him really hard to snipe. Of course, he has the Lucky Banner. The Drayton is here, as well as a Language of the Boys. Although Starfire Shafts do fire damage, so they're going to be very good up against him. Looks like a nice early Brainbuster going to come down on the Giants, but not really do any damage, so we're not too fussed by that one. The first Elvish arrows are loosed from bows, just peppering down the skirmishers, just letting them know that I know that they are indeed there. Glade Riders as well can try and cut down this little bit of a gap on this side, as the Greenskins do decide to float round. So we're going to engage with the Glade Riders, trying to stop my opponent from getting behind me too much, as we do hold this high ground position. Gone rather wide as well, which I think is the best way of doing this. Starfire Shafts do unleash hell upon some of the Stone Trolls who decide to turn their back and run away. Again, I do not blame them whatsoever, although they are taking shots in the rear now. Not nice at all. Huge burst damage coming in. Unfortunately, I do have regeneration, so we need to kill models. That's the main thing here. That's why I'm trying to focus them down so hard. Grom popping onto the Giants, trying to get some of that free, juicy value. He's taking a few poison arrows to the face, and Durfu is arriving. Although it looks like another really nice Brainbuster there is going to be distracting the Hagbane tips. Although they are probably the most, useless, I suppose, of all my archers in this situation. This unit of Trolls is getting absolutely wailed on at this point, down to about half health. 2 Trolls do come in after 1 unit of Eternal Guard, and you know what that means. Durfu is here. We come down with a Sword of Dave, minus 30 armor, big damage, and all of a sudden these models are dropping like flies. Drayton is here, and there's a huge blob fight. In comes Ariel as well, and a Soul Stealer. So we're just nuking these Stone Trolls. This unit does run for the hills, but decent models left on them, 9, which is pretty scary because they can regen and come back. Rom's in here. The other unit of Stone Trolls is being feasted upon. Orc Boys are breaking all sides. All of a sudden, that central pocket fight going rather well for me. But we have committed our Glade Riders to the flanks. And that has allowed the Spider Riders to pop in and start shutting down our back line. There are some Eternal Guards here are going to react relatively quickly, but it's a little too late for these Glade Guard. Another Brainbuster going down. And all of a sudden, our bow line looking rather sketchy. War Dancers as well, trying to intercept these Forest Goblin Spider Riders in time, but they will be able to get into the back line. Glade Guard on this right-hand side are the only ones currently left firing. Eternal Guard slowly pushing their way through Spider Rider Archers. These Glade Riders did defeat their foe, but need to come back to the main fray. Durfu is getting massively overextended, but we don't really have too much of an option. Him and Ariel having to try and push back this Orc Daka line, because the Rusty Arrows were nuking Durfu, doing massive damage. Droids have forced their way into the back line as well, trying to shut these guys down, and all of a sudden we are on the offensive. Acon of Ages goes down on the Savage Orc Biggins, doing some pretty decent damage, and some of the Glade Guard have managed to stabilise. We've started to slowly remedy this backline situation. Glade Riders coming back, War Dancers cleaving up the enemy, but by bringing the Glade Riders back prematurely, Forest Goblin Spider Rider Archers will be able to return to the fray. It looks like down here, the Dryads trying the best to force off the Rusty Arrows, who are wavering, but they should be able to rally at this point. We are going to come in with a Manticore summon, and things are getting a little bit desperate. Bounce Power is against us, our backline is completely in shambles, and we're trying to push over here with Glade Riders to shut down the Forest Goblin Spider Riders. It looks like we're just about going to be able to catch some, do some okay damage, hopefully force them all to the edge of the board. Eternal Guard as well as War Dancers are now returning to try and feast on the Savage Orc Biggins. War Dancers are going to be rolling into battle, swinging their blades left and right in arcs of death, cleaving at these Savage Orc Biggins. But these guys do a lot of damage back in return, and it's going to be a big old meat grinder down there. Glade Guard up on the high ground have managed to stabilise, bringing some Eternal Guard over to rally alongside them. Bounce Power isn't out of sight yet, but you can see our heroes are massively far away from anything else, and that's because we continued that push to try to take down the Rusty Arrows. Realistically, we need to fall back, I think, but I'm kind of committed at the moment, so we're trying to finish off this Orc Shaman at this point. Ferroman's Core is going after Grom. He realistically should have hopped back here onto the Rusty Arrows, I think. Glade Guard, though, are back alive and shooting, peppering down goblin archers. But there's so many greenskins roving in the hills behind us. A lot of them rallying and coming back, juking the Glade Riders, doing those 5Ds of dodge roll to come back into the fight. War Dancers doing a good, little bit of a stand in the middle here, where they will be getting shot in the rear soon by some forest goblins, which no one's a big fan of. Ariel does fall away from Durfu, perhaps trying to run back to Orion to hunt down some goblin archers. Durfu going to continue to put pressure on this Orc Shaman, driving into the back line, and needs to come over here and beat down the Rusty Arrows. But I think Grom, as one of the Stone Trolls, may have something to say about that. Durf actually turns just to engage with Grom, because I know I'm going to have to take this fight at the end of the day. Ariel can then hopefully float over here onto the Rusty Arrows. We do come in with a fat Sword of Dave, which should help us dispatch some of these Stone Trolls rather comfortably. But the Rusty Arrows are just firing constantly in. Aegon of Ages goes down. Ariel screaming an ethereal cry, coming over here and giving the Rusty Arrows a little bit of her mind. Doing some nice burst damage to them, but a little too late, as the mighty tree shall fall. And the balance power gained very heavily now in my opponent's favour. Durfu, 67 kills though, is pretty impressive work. Trying now to rally him where possible, but it's looking a little unlikely. On the high ground, Eternal Guard will be facing off against Forest Goblin Spider Rider Archers. This unit of Glade Guard Starfire Shafts pretty much out of ammunition at this point. Still continuing to pepper the Forest Goblin Spider Riders, but Gwak, as all good taunt players, not letting up, continuing to put pressure on them where possible. Overcome all these skirmishers, and it's looking pretty bleak days. Oh no, it looks like a second loss for us. Ariel is still kind of alive and pretty much full health, and that's why the balance power is so heavy. And at this point, I've just taunted to Gwak in chat, as the last of our units do kind of commit to the fray. That was a real blood and thunder affair. Maybe if we managed to hold our back line a little while longer, or protect Durfu and Ariel a bit more, we would have been able to come back into this one. But alas, I was continuing to fight to the end. I was trying to push off the Rusty Arrows and hopefully tear out everything, and 1v1 Grom maybe, with some insanely lucky RNG. We did try it, but the rest of our forces have indeed shattered, and she is going to go down in a glorious duel. Actually doing okay-ish damage to Grom in fairness, not taking too much in return, although there's a lot of archers arrived at the fray, and I think we do throw in the towel. That was a scrappy fight. That was so scrappy. Quack there, quack indeed. Durfu straight dripping. Durfu was dripping in swag, bro. Durfu tried his best, man, but that was so tough. That was a really tough fight up against Gwak, and I was like, my god. I thought I gave it a good go, but the beast himself did manage to reign supreme. Now, the Durfu himself, pretty good work, 1.6k damage value. I really like him here because of the Sword of Dave. Allows him just to butcher Stone Trolls very quickly. Ariel as well, kind of 1.6 damage value. Pretty good little tag team there. As for the Dryads and the Eternal Guard, they didn't do anything too crazy, of course. They were simply there to hold the line. War Dancers themselves, unfortunately, couldn't pay for themselves, which is a bit bad news for me. Some of the Glade Guard did pretty poorly. I was doing rather well, particularly these two units. 840 damage value on this one, 988 on the second. Glade Riders as well have been using that defensive formation, but there was simply too many greenskins to deal with. We went pretty wide, but the greenskins went wider, which pretty much sums up Grom as a whole. 1.9k damage value from him, 5,800 damage dealt is scary, and Orc Shaman did his bit as well, those knives brainbusters, and then it's a sheer mass of units. Soldier Biggins, this unit 0 kills were sent their entire time surrounding Durfu, taking 2,783 health off him, which is pretty good, 1.k damage value. The other unit performing a little bit better though, 181 kills, 1.4k value themselves. But the real MVPs with Rusty Arrows just lowering the armor on Durfu with their armor sundering and getting 1,000 damage value off of him. Really good work protecting those guys after a considerable amount of pressure. And yeah, Forest Goblin Spider Riders are probably the best skirmishers in the game. I think Chameleon Skinks do give them a bit of a run for their money, but these guys come with such good utility. They're so fast, they poison you, they're a pain in the butt, and they can get all over you. This unit of Stone Trolls only getting 69 value. Going to leave that one up in the air for you guys. And the other one, 822 value itself. Grom is wider with his gits, mate. Indeed. Indeed. It's a hard matchup, but it was a fun one for sure. It was a real fun one. Good to see them abusing the weed collectors for a change. Oh yeah, out skirmishing the skirmishers. That is a good shout. So the group now has got a second victory off of me, and my fight for the top of the table is looking a little bit bleak, particularly because Gwak is very strong, so I was expecting him to get good results up against everyone else as well. So we will load into our next game up against him, which is a super fun one, and once again, of course, you are going to be seeing the Dino Boys coming into the fray once more. This time up against Bretonnia. Gwak actually picked Bretonnia into me, so I knew he knew what he was doing. But this matchup isn't completely terrible anymore for the Bretonnians. So who's your money on, guys? If you think I'm going to pull this one out of the bag, perhaps drop a duck emoji into chat. If you think Gwak's going to do it, perhaps leave a... I don't know, I don't think you can do a Gwak thing. Maybe leave an avocado or something in the chat. And once again, we are looking at it from the wrong point of view. So I am, of course, the Lizardmen. So we're going to play this relatively simple, pretty basic stuff. We have skink cohorts with javelins on either flank. A ton of Saurus spears with shields, of course, in the main battle line. Good up again. They're good enough to destroy all the Bretonnian infantry, but also that bonus versus large. And the big pointy spears, obviously very good against cavalry. We're bringing 3 big fat dinos once more. We're bringing a feral carnosaur to help clear out King Leolenker, cavalry, and so forth. We have the thunderous one, Regiment of Renowned Ancient Stegodon, the goodest boy. Let's give him a little pet there of our mouse. And we have Lord Mazdamundi up on his big toilet seat, coming in with the Ruination of Cities, Banishment, Shield of the Old Ones, Apotheosis, Curse of Midnight Wind, Net of Amantalk, as well as the Sunburst Standard, the Duck Classic as it's also known. Now for the Forces of Gwak coming in... Oh, we also have 3 Pterodons, I should probably say. We have Pterodon Riders here, Pohawk Sentinels here, and another year of Pterodon Riders in the back with Fire Leech Bowlers. Absolutely key, because the way the Bretonnians win this is cycle charging cavalry and a bucket ton of filthy, unwashed peasant bowmen. Leading these unwashed, filthy peasants is King Leolenker up in the skies, of course. Very good at taking. He can solo the dinosaurs. It's one of the only matchups he's actually better than Thane, I think. We have a ton of peasant mobs in the front line to absorb some damage. Backing them up is going to be, as expected, a bucket ton of peasant bowmen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bowmen, which is some very scary stuff. There are different varieties as well, pox and standard. With some men at arms with pole arms, it looks like they're guarding the back rank here. And then Question Knights into the sunset, which is the way to go. They don't have the bonus versus large, but you use the archers to take down the large. These guys do enough damage that they can still do damage against the big dinosaurs, but also very good against the infantry. So you have Question Knights here, Question Knights in the central portions as well, and over on the far side. The rest of the core is going to be spent here on a Grail Reliquy, which is going to help the peasants fight a little while longer, and a Damsel of Life, Regrowth, Earthblood, simply there for the knights where possible. Really cool build. It looks like we... oh no, that's me. I'm getting so confused because I'm red for some reason on these replays. The Pterodons are going to be swooping in, trying to put some pressure on my opponent. The king is going to float out over this side to try and get some free value on the skink cohort. We're peppering him down a little bit with our machine guns off the top of the thunderous one, and these skinks do try to fall back a little bit towards the sword of spears, where perhaps we can surround him, get some nice free value if possible, as the rest of our build does start to push forward. In the back come the Pterodons, looking to pressurize the peasant archers, who it looks like are going to be turning and engaging on the Pohawk Sentinels, who are just bob and weave, duck, dive, dodge, all that good stuff, taking some huge damage, but pulling them back, allowing the other Pterodon riders to come in as well. Peasants break before the front line is even engaged because of Thunderous One's machine gun, which is pretty funny, and now we have a nice pocket of archers to get into. Fire Leech Bowlers are now starting to bomb the peasant bowmen, doing some really nice work there. Pohawk Sentinels do fall back to come in a little while later, and this other unit of Pterodons does come with a rock drop before diving on top of these archers, taking them out of the game. Now, it's a big monster match, obviously, pushing through here, so we do pop our Shield of the Old Ones on all our big dinos as we go toe-to-toe up against some polearms as well as Question Knights, and it looks like we are dropping a banishment on this second unit of peasants, doing some really lovely damage to them, hopefully breaking them as the Pohawk Sentinels do come in to feast as well. Spearmen are fine, Question Knights. I'm absolutely fine with that in the front line. Carnosaur is going to be darting over to try and surround the king, who is so pesky, so hard to kill. Curse of Midnight Wind has gone down on all these knights, and the Feral Cold one has been hit by the Sword of Corone, but should do a decent job. Mazdamundi is taking a bit of punch. Apotheosis is going down, and the big Thunderous one is now being surrounded and isolated. Question Knights with an Earthblood on them, trying to fight and hold off the beast. And it's doing rather well. Mazdamundi is here to support, as well as the king, who's taking a little bit of a pounding from the Carnosaur. The Grail Reliquy is popping over here to try and encourage these Quest Knights who are close to breaking. We have swords with spears saturated in the mist, which is perfect for us. Pterodons continue just to bomb the back line, dive on top of these archers, keep them off the battlefield as long as possible. You can see a lot of them run in, and we are chasing off some units there. We need to forget some Saurus and some Skinks, but they will be coming back in late game, don't you worry. Pterodon Riders do kite the king before turning to engage Peasant Bowmen once more, and we net that Damsel of Life. I want her off the field as quickly as possible, but it looks like the king has other needs here. Somehow the damsel takes like no damage. I was like, what on earth is going on here? I just couldn't do any work on her. We do drop a Ruinations on ourselves to try and clear off the Quest Knights and Polearms, and it does a pretty good work there. Feral Carnosaur is now out of control, taking quite a lot of damage. So, yeah, not a good day for him whatsoever. Mazda does come in. Thunderous One is trying to waddle its way over as well to help support. And we did some pretty good work, but the king is very healthy at this point. Balance power is even, but it's a little bit scary. Terran and Rise are, once again, continue to pressurize the Peasant Bowmen, stopping them from getting too much good value. This unit, yeah, diving down, doing some good work. Another Shield of the Old Ones does go in. Mazda is incredibly low at this point. I cannot finish off that Damsel. Curse of Midnight Wind does come in. Swords of Spears are going to get some glorious value here, as well as the Thunderous One, up to 125 kills. Pushing its way through, going after the king, driving away the men-at-arm polearms, and allowing the Carnosaur to attempt to feast on the Damsel of Life. She's incredibly weak right now, but still having a good go at it, poking back up against that Feral Carnosaur. Quest Knights come in with a charge. We did finally remember to activate our Sword of Spearmen, who are floating over here trying to push away the Quest Knights, but it's looking pretty bleak. Terran Riders have now been attacked by Quest Knights. Terran Riders in the back as well, just poking down some peasants for engaging once more with the enemy archers. Skink Cohort's doing a good job chasing off the enemy. And Mazda Mundi, the mighty leader, Zlak as well, falling to the wrath of the king. There's only one king in the jungle, and it's the guy who eats, and it looks like Beaky shall be eating Zlak today. Feral Carnosaur incredibly low health-wise, and the worst one about this, we've lost our healing. We have no more Apotheosis. Balance power is going now quite heavily in the favour of Bretonnia, as you'd expect. Feral Carnosaur is next on the list, doing a pretty decent job though. They do some pretty good work onto the king, who has hit his healing cap, and now really scaring off that Damsel of Life. But the Feral Carnosaur himself is wavering, and the king looks like he's going to add another Dino Scalp to his wall. Although the Carnosaur, given as good as it gets, but unfortunately breaks Sword of Chrome coming in with some Quest Knights is enough. Their balance power very heavily in Gwak's favour at this point. Skink Cohorts do need to come back to the fray. They're trying to push off Peasant Bowmen. Thunderous One does stand alone, but he is a mighty beast indeed, so perhaps there's a little upset on the cards if he can rally himself with the Spearmen, but they are very far away from each other. Spearmen doing some good job onto the Questing Knights. Peasants, of course, are going to be getting very tired, staggered, and kind of breaking off at this moment, and fleeing away. They are kind of going after the men-at-arms for now. Thunderous One is completely surrounded here. There is Questing Knights on him, there is the King on him, there is the Damsel. Firehawk Sentinels are here to support, and the Thunderous One stands firm, screaming a Blood Roar to Thor to guide his lightning. He beats the crap out of that Jade Wizard, or the Life Wizard, because he is obviously very angry with her. And we do come with a charge with the Sentinels, trying to break the leadership where possible of my opponent. The King Leon Kerpop standard ground is desperately trying to escape. Quest Knights do come in with peasants, but the Thunderous One is just not going down here. More Quest Knights commit themselves to the fight. Sentinels desperately trying to chase off the King. It looks like his leadership will hold, despite the fact the Damsel has left and abandoned him. And the Thunderous One beating back some Quest Knights. The machine guns on his back doing some really lovely work. The King does come down for another cycle charge, and these troops fighting all the harder because of the Grail. In the distance, we do have the Skink Cohorts chasing off Peasant Bowmen, and we've got a little bit of a rally coming. We've got some Swords coming back to the fray. Pohawk Sentinels once again going to come in with a Thunderous charge. Thunderous One, though, is wavering at this point. Very low health-wise, but he's done enough damage to the King. The King is wavering, and the charge of the Sentinels breaks his leadership, and we're chasing that bad boy as long as we can. Although it looks like my opponent does pop an Earthblood down, and the Thunderous One, 970 health, is wavering at this point. Huge damage for him. I'm so excited to see the damage value from him at the end of the game. Pushing his way for the troops and punting that Damsel before finishing off with a Javelin to the face. Down the leadership goes of the Bretonnian forces. I'm hoping if we can force off the King and the big Thunderous One survives, we can tear out to the remainder of these forces. But it looks like the Thunderous One is running for his hills. We have Skink Cohorts who can come back. Saurus with Spears are pretty good here, honestly. The men-at-arms with polearms are a little bit more tattered. We've got 45 Saurus here, 36 here, forcing away through the peasant mobs, although the Grail is going to be supporting these troops. Thunderous One has been escorted away by the Quest Knights, although this unit is broken by the mere presence of the beast itself. There are some more peasant mobs to rally, as well as some Questing Knights, but soon The Bretonians will begin a big debuff in their leadership when the king is forced off the field. And a big problem by my opponent here is trying to break the remainder of my formation and rally his own troops. He's left the Thunderous One because his troops were terrified away from it. And it's rallied. It's got a few shots left, so every little bit of damage does help. 0 leadership right now, only 249 health, but he shall be trotting back. The Bretonnian infantry does start to break under the might of 3 incredibly beat-up Saurus Warriors units. Questing Knights struggling to get through their thick armor there. Thunderous One is going to be making a charge just as the king does fall off. Good timing by me. And oh my god, the comeback of all comebacks. The Thunderous One roars a blood roar victorious. And we took down the god himself. Gwak falls to the hammer of the mighty Melon Lord and the Thunderous One. I bet you didn't see that coming. That was insane. Oh, my sweet old Bretonians not spamming Fey Enchantress. Did it say miracle, I tell you? Yeah, this was an elite Dino Force for sure. That was a pretty insane game. What do you think of that one? I was down and out. I was like, oh, I should probably just, concede to not waste his time anymore. Mazdamundi's down, Carnosaur's down. Thunderous One doesn't care one bit. 228 kills, nearly 5,000 damage value, taking out the leadership of Bretonnia, slaughtering those questing knights, sending them back on their way, and feasting upon the souls of the peasants. They will be singing songs of terror to their children for years to come, generations of the Thunderous One and the threat it can cause. That was my favourite game from the tournament, without a doubt so far. Epic game. Well played to Gwak as well, though. He did a really good performance. The Pterodon Riders were absolutely pivotal in hunting down the peasants. You can see they got 1 kill between them all. Some pretty okay damage value here and there. That did target Mazdamundi, but nothing special. Most of them not paying for themselves. Console got 2.3k damage value. Did pay for itself, despite the fact it fell. And Lord Mazdamundi 1.7. Those buffs really key in keeping us in the game. Saurus Spearmen coming clutch at the end, 1.2k damage value on this unit, and the others performed relatively well, most of them paying for themselves, and the Sin cohorts as well, making their value. As for the Questing Knights, if you have a nice little look, really good cycle charging all round from Gwak, 1k damage value on this unit, 1 here, 1, so pretty good work from the Quest Knights, but they are relatively expensive. King Leon Lernker, 2,000 damage value. Certainly not too shabby, but he is very expensive up until his mighty beast. Assassinated Mazdamundi, assassinated the Carnosaur, but you can't assassinate, a god, the Thunderous One, who managed to win the day. Yes, yes. The leadership on Lizardmen units as a thing of beauty. Oh, for sure. For sure. There is no baguettes left whatsoever. No healing. We had healing on, with Mazdamundi, but yeah, the Thunderous One didn't get healed. We popped an Apotheosis on ourselves and then died, so that Thunderous One could have gone even better with some more healing. Are veterans on Cold Ones good versus the Bretonnia? Veterans? Oh, yeah, like the Cold One veterans. Yeah, they're pretty, I can see them doing pretty good. I can see them doing pretty good up against cavalry. They may get swarmed a little bit. You should try Mazdamundi without the Zlak mount, accosted by 2 standard Stegodons with the Bastillodon. Really good. Oh yeah, for sure. No, you can sit back and like vibe with Lizardmen and shoot long range with Bastillodons. It does work. It doesn't really suit my playstyle with them, but I have done it in the past to some good effect. Oh, if Alberic. Yeah. Alberic brings the anti-large nearby troops, so you can roll him with Quest Knights, but he's not as good as the King. He doesn't have to heal him. Although he had a healing caster anyway, so maybe it would have been worth it. Who knows? But let's update the scoreboard quickly. So currently we are 6-2, and we take a game off Gwak, meaning that that top spot of the group is all of a sudden wide open. If he drops another game and we win all our games, the worst we can do is get a draw. So let's hop in and see who we have left to play. I believe we've got 4 more games for you. So 2 against Kamikaze, 2 up against Haruno. So we'll hop into the Kamikaze first one, which is going to be Lizardmen versus Dwarfs. And then we have Norsca versus Vampire Coast. Looking forward to those. Let's grab a little drink, though. Take a little bit of a break for a couple of minutes. Let you guys chat. If you've got any questions to ask, let me know. We've kind of shot through a load of games there in one go. Hopefully it's not too overwhelming for you guys. I can feel my voice dying a little, but I did do, I think, 2 or 3 recordings today as well. How are you guys doing in the tournament, by the way? I hope you guys are getting through the groups, and after this, so like at this point, I'm through the groups, right? Like, I'm fighting now for the top spot. We've got enough wins in our belt that were all good. 2 players dropped out as well, so we get the wins from them. And, yeah, there's a couple more games to go. I tried Alberic, but it always seems to just not... Yeah, he doesn't have the putt, doesn't have the same swing on him. I agree, Blackthorn, which kind of sucks. I'm interested to see him, like, on a horseback, rolling with Leader Quest Knights, but I don't think it'll work. But yeah, I hope you guys are all having fun enjoying the stream. Satisfy the Grudge. Oh yeah, we got some Dwarfs coming. There's some Dwarfs. Do I play Dwarfs in any of the games? I don't, unfortunately. People kept banning my Dwarfs. I wanted to play Dwarfs. I wanted to be Dwarfs. But, what's the way to counter High Elves as Lizards? Well, I actually have a Lizardman faction guide. And if you go to there, there's, I mean, it's like 3.5 hours long, but it underneath, it has timestamps to matchups, and I'll explain it in the High Elf matchup. But basically, you bring 2 large Stegodons, again, Mazdamundi, Thunderous one, as you've seen I bring so many times here, and you can put Cancel as well if you want, if you really want to go hardcore, and you just push into the back line. You just have to keep pushing. If you can shut down a High Elf back line as Lizardmen, you've won the game, because their front line is probably going to get dragged down by you, and simply isn't going to have enough punch to drag down some of the larger creatures. You gotta be a little wary though. Oh yeah, Tempest for Dragons and Flying Doors. Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. Yeah, Stegodons with the big bolts. Yeah, it gives them the added range. I actually occasionally do it against like Tomb Kings or Dwarfs and outshoot them. I got like hate messages when I did it. It was weird. But such is life. They were really unhappy. Like, oh, I'm Dwarfs. You're meant to come to me. I'm like, well, no, I don't want to. Wait, let's hop in here, as we will be facing off against Kamikaze. And I can say at this point I was facing Kamikaze. He had had a pretty good tournament so far. I think he's a bit of a veteran player, coming in with the mighty Dowie folk. We're going to be bringing the Lizardmen, and oh yes, we have the 2 familiar faces that I'm sure you are going to be aware of. We're coming with the Thunderous one and Mazdamundi. I just love this pairing, honestly. It's so powerful. Together, they can take down most single entities, especially with the help of Mazdamundi's magic. And we are bringing all the standard spells that I like to bring with him. So, yeah, Net, Curse, Apotheosis. And against the Dwarfs, it may seem like an odd pick, right? Dwarfs have a load of shooting and a load of Slayers. But you can push through Dwarfs rather easily with these giant mounts, get into that back line and start threatening Thunderers and so forth. So all we need to do then is deal with the Slayers. How do you deal with Slayers, you may ask? Well, we have 2 units of Pterodons flying around up in the skies, but in the back lines, we have triple Skink Skirmishers. Again, these guys seem a little bit odd here, right? No AP, poison damage, yada yada, nothing too crazy. Half my build has poison damage. I'm Lizardmen, of course. But Skink Skirmishers, of course, are fantastic at taking down Slayers, and that's going to be their entire job of them. Pterodon Riders are here to bomb the troops and then focus down Slayers, and the rest of our build is just cheap and cheerful Skinks. We've got a couple of basic ones on the flanks. They're going to do literally no damage to the enemy, but they will be able to swarm in and shut down Thunderers and so forth. Red-crested Skinks, including the Co-op Zotek in the central pocket and on the flanks, who are bringing a little bit more heat up against the Dowie. For my opponent's build, it's got quite a cool build. Miners have Vanguard on the hill. Just take a little look at my build before the battle does engage. Front line, he has some stalwart Longbeards. Longbeards will hold for an absolute age up against Source Warriors. Red-crested Skinks will beat the snot out of Skinks. The basic ones, they're a pretty solid unit here. In the secondary line, he does have Miners with Blast and Chargers. I like this play. They will launch their shots up and over the enemy and really start to kind of pound down any kind of like Red-crested Skinks and so forth who do come in. We have triple Quarrelers in the centre, not the best AP on these guys. I much prefer Thunderers, but they will do a good job up against the little Skinks. And here's what other units to deal with my big creatures. They come in the form of Gotrek the Mighty, as well as Grombrindle the White Dwarf of his mighty axe. Coming with Flash Bomb, Foe Seeker, Grombrindle has no fear, and Unbreakable. Just look at him. He's such a ferocious being all round. We have Giant Slayers in the back. It looks like 2 units and double bolt throws to apply some long-range pressure to myself. And how will the battle unfold? There's only one way to find out. It looks like we've got the Pohawks in the background as well, who are going to be swooping in with their lovely rock drop. They're a bit of a staple as well. Also, Gotrek is not good for Dwarfs anymore, too expensive. He's pretty cool though. Yeah, Dowie used to be a real big counter, I think, to Lizardmen, and now it's a match that's kind of switched a little bit. Skink Skirmishers are just going to be peppering down those Giant Slayers. We're taking quite a bit of damage. I kind of forget these guys aren't chameleons sometimes, and the Quarrelers have turned to engage them. But as long as that's happening, the Quarrelers aren't focusing down our Pterodon Riders, so I'm absolutely okay with this. And Skink's doing some nice damage to the Giant Slayers, as the Pohawks do start to rain in alongside the Pterodon Riders. Looks like bolt throws are trying to counter shoot. Big rock drop goes down, half health in these crawlers, should be able to hopefully poke them around off the battlefield as Skink Skirmishers once again apply a bit of pressure. Good defensive play by my opponent though, he's been proactive, he's not sitting back. Blasting Chargers do come in to counter the Skink Skirmishers, which they play I quite like, as our front lines are getting ready to engage. But luckily for me, as Blasting Chargers are being used on the back line, they're not going to be able to hunt down the red-crested Skinks, who are going to quite happily fight these Longbeards. Up in the skies, we're just peppering, we're just harassing, we're just taking the shots for now. Giant Slayers have lost a decent amount of health, and a little bit slow on my micro, just need to wrap these troops around a little bit quicker. But in come the Beastie Boys. They're coming in, they're thunderous, they're angry, they're ramrolling some Longbeards into another realm. And little Slayers will be trying to catch them, but we have a nice little neat trick here, and it's called the Net Avalanche. We're simply going to net you and jog away. We don't really care about you Slayers. We're going to run away, drop a banishment on you, and let the damage kind of do itself. And yeah, you know, Dwarfs, they come in with magic resistance, but you drop enough big banishments on them and you'll certainly pay for your cost. Looks like some of the red cross skinks are paying as well. Mazmuni is angry today. One of the units of the Poehawk Sentinels have been forced off. We have a nice surround on the Longbeards on this flank. Red-crested Skinks and Skink Cohorts are coming in here and just clobbering the Dowie to death. Backline is in complete disarray. Crawlers do have Grombrindle, has no fear on them. Mazdamundi as well as the Thunderous One have been hit by the Flash Bomb, so surely the other ones will go down to counteract that a little bit. And we're just ramrolling in right into those bolt throws, terrifying them away, and down comes a Ruination as well, trying to catch some of these troops. Doing a decent number on the Crawlers there. Skinks have been very nicely ushered by my opponent back here into a corner up against Blasting Charges. This is bad by me. They need to escape, and it looks like they have now been given the order to get out of here. We are currently trying to micro Mazdamundi and the Thunderous One just to escape the Giant Slayers where possible. We'll come back and deal with you later. Mazdamundi is going to float over to this side to try and break into this Longbeards and allow the Skinks to push through. And red-crested Skinks are starting to dart into the back line, trying to find holes where possible. Pterodons have lined up a glorious rock drop onto 2 units, did some nice burst damage before peppering them from javelins from the sky. Skink Cohorts have managed to engage Giant Slayers, which is perfect for me. Skink Cohorts are very numerous, and they will slowly drag down Slayers. Even if they lose that fight, it's very cost effective, and it takes off something that my opponent needs to win. Another Net of Amatok is going to go down on these Giant Slayers once more, pinning them in place, allowing these Skink Skirmishers to focus fire them down where possible. The Thunderous One as well is trotting over onto the miners with Blasting Charges, looking to ease them up and buy more time for these Skink Skirmishers to float over here and apply some pressure to the Giant Slayers. Mazmuni is having an absolute whale of a time. My opponent's desperately trying to catch him. Gotrek and the White Dwarf are constantly hounding his footsteps of slack, but he's going to be using his added mobility and weight to push his way through and just jump on returning units of Longbeards which are in fights and not having a good day whatsoever. At the moment, bounce power is relatively heavy in our favour. Giant Slayers are just kind of vibing, trying to get back. They need to kind of form a central pocket of strength at this point. But we have a lot of darts still around. Thunderous One terrifies off some miners, scares them away once more. Skink Cohorts as well being used to hunt down more miners. Skinks are wasting a little bit of ammunition here. They really want to be over here poking down at the Giant Slayers where possible. And we still have Gotrek and the White Dwarf to deal with, and things look pretty good for me so far. But that's a mighty set of heroes, and pretty much all the damage output on my build left, and from the start really, is the Thunderous One and Lord Mazdamundi. Thunderous One does come in for a rather feeble charge into the White Dwarf, not looking too good there. Curse of Midnight Wind does go down though, trying to allow the Cohort as well as the Red-Crested Skinks to do some nice damage to Maz. He does respond to Grombrindle, but he does do a nice Flash Bomb in response, and the Thunderous One taking a little bit of damage here. Mazdamundi needs to be getting in there and supporting whilst this curse is active. Banishment comes down, just roasting a few Dwarfs on their return. Giant Slayers unfortunately are fighting Skinks now. Again, really bad situation for them, especially when Skink Skirmishers are peppering them alongside the Pterodon Riders. And the White Dwarf is now suffering. He's taking a decent amount of damage, down to about half health, but of course he is unbreakable. Cohort of Sotek are just clubbing their way through Longbeards with their great maces. In the distance, we can see some Skink Cohorts forcing off miners. That's just good, diligent play. Like, getting rid of them, we just want them away. Bounce power is going very heavily in our favour. And if we can break my opponent's build, the unbreakable troops shouldn't be too hard to cycle charge to death at the end game. Longbeards charging into combat, trying to get to grips with the Cohort of Sotek have been a really solid backbone unit here, and they're having a good time. Up to 80 kills on one unit of Red-Crested, Cohort up to 173. Oh, that's disgusting. My opponent is getting a little desperate now, continuing to try to chase down Mazdamundi, but they just simply have no hope of catching him. He's darting him here onto the Longbeards. You can see he's giving him a little animation to flee for his life. The smoke bomb's already been popped, and he's simply going to trot away, Zlak wagging his tail as he does leave the Dowie characters behind. Foe Seeker has been popped, trying to allow them to catch, but Mazdamundi, yeah, he's a bit slumberous, but he's not that slow. Tedder Riders dart into combat, having used up their ammunition to try and finish off and break these Longbeards with the help of the red-crested Skinks. And Slayers, 25 of them, have now finally got engaged with the Thunderous One. I actually charged them in here just to allow him to try and break through them. They're getting peppered down by Javelins, Blow Darts, Skinks are here. And yeah, Giant Slayers, maybe Giant, they may be Slayers, but the Thunderous One is mighty. MVP of my tournament so far, without a doubt. Polearch Centaurs come in as well, and we're just mopping up all the units at this point. Balance power, though, isn't too far gone. My opponent still has these crazy characters, and that could be really bad for me in the late game if we don't take care of it. We have some ammunition left on this Skink unit, but for the most part, it looks like our skirmishers are out of ammunition. Thunderous One is very bare bones ammunition as well at this point. So this unit, I believe I did eventually take off far at will, and I'm looking to focus down Gotrek because of his 0 armor. Lord Mazmudi is looking relatively strong at the moment. Skink Cohort just going to be vibing with Gotrek and Grombrindle down here. Cohort is going to appear alongside the red-crested Skinks, who are currently double chevron, and we're looking for a nice little surround on our mighty Dwarvish heroes, fighting back-to-back. The legends of old going toe-to-toe with a tide of enemies. They're doing a pretty good job, unfortunately. The Terrans, when they charge in, really mess up the camera, so we're going to have to abandon them for now. Surely the Odd Ones is popped. A full surround is going down. I think I'm trying to focus down Grombrindle first, I seem to remember, before we then surround Gotrek and the Death. Mazdamandia coming in as well. Now, Flash One has gone down, which is nuking a lot of the stats of nearby troops. Thunderous One is coming in for a Thunderous Charge, as you would expect. Curse of Midnight Wind is active, lowering the armor of Grombrindle that little bit more. And we're just simply going to be cycle charging with our big beasties. At this point, it's going to be pretty hard for me to lose. If I stand and fight, maybe there's a chance that he'll take down the Thunderous One and so forth. Tedder Rider's been used to mop up Longbeards at this moment, and the big old Stegos just, rotating, tag teaming in. Mazdamundi goes in, high fives the Thunderous One, he tags in. It's a good old kind of cage match situation. And although Gotrek's doing some pretty massive burst damage to Mazdamundi, as my big dinos do kind of fail to land a couple of hits. The White Dwarf is holding the line through the thunder and the fury. It's smoke and blood, but in comes Zlak, and Zlak's taken no crap from no dwarfs today. I believe the old ones made the dwarfs as well, so I'm probably not too happy that they've come out of their little holes that they put them in. Apotheosis does go down on Lord Mazdamundi just to heal him up a little bit longer, as the Thunderous One once again comes in for a big fat charge into the rear on the Grombrindle. And yeah, looks like the mighty White Dwarf shall be fallen to the might of the Old Ones and the Lizardmen. Looks like another Curse of the Midnight Wind was popped as well, just lowering their stats. White Dwarf unfortunately does die, and Grombrindle, or Gotrek, sorry, will suffer the same fate. So we'll fast forward through this bit because it is basically what you expect. We just surround him and clobber him to death under cloven foot and mightier apex predators. Yeah, the apex predator in Lustria is a herbivore. It's true. It's true. I mean, it feasts on souls. It feasts on souls, which is what I like to see. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. That was really fun. What's up, Flaky Pants? How's it going? Flaky Pants, the OG. Alright guys, I've got a little story for you guys about Mr. Flaky Pants before we move on to the next game. So, Flaky Pants is someone I went to university with, and they're actually the reason I started a YouTube channel. Because they themselves started one. I believe they do a lot of different gaming. I think they've been doing it on and off, so hopefully they're kind of like putting stuff up consistently. But if you're into gaming channels, definitely go check him out. Really cool person. It's called mine. Super lovely dude. Excellent writer as well. Writes some beautiful fantasy work. So hopefully he puts some of that up on his channel. But because of him, I have a channel. Because I was inspired by what he did. So make sure you go over there, share some love. I don't think he plays Total War Warhammer yet, but we'll convince him. We'll convince him. Would love to see a video on each faction and their count picks. That was pretty, I'll consider doing that, Hunter. That sounds pretty good fun. I have done kind of like all the matchups for Lizardmen. I'm going to slowly work my way through the factions before Total Warhammer 3, before redoing them for that game. I think Wood Elves is going to be next on the list. I may recruit Sergeant Spaghetti and Grombrindle to help me with a dwarf list at some point. Yeah, it costs an arm and a leg and the other characters are characters. Yeah, the squad is OP. The squad is OP. Yeah, the minigun. It's poison. It's so good. It's so good. Get a load of this old one. Oh man, that was a fun game. That was a fun game. So let's update the score. Take that to 7. So we're doing pretty good. We're looking good so far in the qualifying phase. And at this point, so we are going to be coming in to, I think have we done the full game against Kamikaze, or do we have one more? Oh no, I can't see what it is. Oh no, I shouldn't have done that. I should do that. Okay, we'll go for the stats. I think I've got next one left against Kamikaze as well. Oh yeah, he brought the dreaded duck into the world. I'm not sure if he's still here, but if he is, yell quack at him and praise the duck gods, for he is the god, I suppose, at the end of the day. So, for our forces, of course, Mazdamundi comes in at 2.6k damage value. Absolutely disgusting stuff. Ramrolling his way through and not taking too much damage. We got a little bit lazy of him at the end and not pulling him out against Grombrindle as much as we should have. And the funnest one at 2.8k. It's pretty disgusting. That's all the punch you really need. Red Crested Skinks, yeah, they do absolutely fine. The Curl of Sotek in particular, 1.6k damage value. That's pretty dirty. The Skink Skirmishers as well do their job. Not the most damage value and so forth, but they just whittle down those giant stacks. That's all they need to do. Same with the Pterodons after they've dropped those bombs. And then nothing can stop the two giants, because you can cycle charge characters, and the rest of the Dowry infantry will simply be rolled on. They don't have enough mass to stop you getting in their back line. It's a real big problem at the moment for the forces of the Dwarfs. Grombrindle the White Dwarf did okay. Gotrek as well, 1,000 damage value, but he's so expensive. I kind of agree with Silent Spaghetti on the moment with Gotrek. Particularly when you can bring Ungrim, right? Ungrim's like so much cheaper and basically does the same job. Although Grombrindle is hard to ignore, he is very powerful himself. The Longbeards held the line for a decent amount of time, and the Giant Slayers got some okay value in the end. Particularly this unit, 920 is certainly nothing to scoff at. But a mixture of banishments and so forth put them in their place. And the Quarrels did some good work, but unfortunately the Bolt Throwers were shut down rather easily there. No Chameleons? I didn't think Chameleons were necessary. I went a little bit cheaper now. Chameleons can be very good here, but we just went to triple Skink Skirmishes instead. We're a little bit more cheaper, so we can afford the two big monsters in the air and the Pterodon Rider pressure. But they are good in this matchup. Oh god, I'm sorry if I missed your name. Javier is what I'm going to go with. I have a full Lizardmen guide, man, if you want to check it out. Or just watch Lizardmen videos. It'll certainly help you out. Say, better give us the Troglodon mount for Lizardmen in Game 3. Oh, they better. They better. Yeah, Falcon's list is also really good. It is a little outdated now, unfortunately, as it's kind of a few patches ago and a few DLCs ago. But I'm sure he'll do a new one when Total War Warhammer 3 comes out. Oh, so how many points you need to get into the next round, says Hamoud? Well, it depends on the rest of your group. So there's 10 players in each group, I believe. And, how's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I think we had, oh yeah, myself, yeah, 10 players all round. 2 dropped out, and I couldn't play 1. I sat multiple games, but he accidentally slept through, so I've been given the win for that one as well. So I've got 6 points for free off the bat, and we're coming in with the rest of them. Did I update the scoreboard? Oh god, I don't know. Did I update the scoreboard? I'll let you guys decide. I won't choose it yet. We're holding to the next game, and I can just add 2 if we need to at the end. So up next, we will be taking on Kamikaze once more, and his Vampire Coast. And Kamikaze's a pretty tough foe, I must admit. And I got some news about him as well after this game, and what happened in another game, which is pretty pivotal to how this group stage is going to go. What's up, Sebastian? How's it going, buddy? I watched the 3 hours, and I want more. More! So, how rock and roll do you want your builds? Because this build by myself, the Norscan build, this is some rock and roll stuff for sure. It's heavy. It brings the pain. It is heavy with the fumes. This build wants all the smoke. It wants all the smoke. We have a front line. We have Marauders, cheap cheerful Marauders on the flanks. We don't care about those guys. We're here for the Viking Berserkers. Marauder Berserker, Marauder Berserker, Marauder Berserker into the sunset. We have the max limit of the amount we can bring. Here to chew our way through a Vampire Coast force. We do have some Skinwolves, of course. They're very powerful. We have a unit on either flank. Some Marauder Horsemen, as well as triple Marauder Hunter Javelins. Actually 4, in fact, to really drag down crabs and some of the larger threats. Also pretty good at taking down bombers, though, which is pretty key because the Berserkers could really struggle up against them. We're coming in with 2 casters as well. Shaman Sorcerer of Death with Spirit Leech, as well as a Shaman Sorcerer of Fire with Burning Head. Scroll of Shielding to drop on top of the Frog Daddy Meister himself. And here he is. Look at him and his beautiful form. He's here. I don't normally bring him in most matchups, but this matchup I think he's actually very good. Wolfric's just a big fat target. And it's a relatively simple plan. We're going to envelop the enemy, swarm them, rip their guns from their hands, and with a Viking song on our lips, going to crack their skulls open. That's the main plan. Stopping us though and standing in our way is Count Noculus on top of his mighty contraption here. Looking pretty scary all round. He is a bit of a beastie. Invocation of the Heck, Raised Dead, and look, that's all he's going to have. So pretty simple stuff. Of course, we have just the hordes of the undead, just a load of deckhand mobs as well as polearms mixed in. Polearms mainly on the flanks and in the rear in a more defensive formation. And in the central pocket, we have a nice double zombie pirate gunnery mob bombers, as well as one unit of the handgunners. 2 carronades protected by the polearms, but a lot of the main damage from my opponent is coming in this air force. We have deck droppers with handguns, and as well as 2 failbats and 2 handguns. And the problem here is, in general, Norsca really suffer up against units in the air. Their shooting units, such as javelins and so forth, don't quite have the same trajectory as like a gun, for example, which obviously fires in a straight line. Far better at taking down large, more flying threats. We also have a Death Shriek Terrorgeist up in the skies, double chevron on this guy, so quite a big commitment. No Warhounds though, which I'm a little bit surprised about, because of course you know the threat of Hunters is coming for you. Oh mate, giving a Skinklord a Dread Saurian Mound, that is an idea. That is just, oh, that'd be beautiful. Oh no, Warrior Crest on a Dread Saurian, that's disgusting, that'd be so funny. But anyway, Shaman Sorcerer has taken a few hits here, unfortunately. Cannon shots going in. Good time to priority, trying to wipe out my Firecaster where possible, because Burning Heads could absolutely wreck this build, and I'm having problems getting this caster near the main line. Frog takes a couple of shots, but he's not too fussed by this. Of course, he has regeneration, and the rest of our forces are going to be approaching. Skinwolves wrapping around the flanks at this point. Looking a bit of better pressure on the central pocket once we get there. And these Berserkers are getting dangerously close to the enemy without taking too much damage, and that's very, very good news for me all around. What's up, Spencer? Hey, Duck, when did you start playing Total War Warhammer franchise? So I played Rome Total War as a kid. Played Medieval as a kid, and then I stopped for ages because my computers couldn't run the games. I played a bit of Warhammer 1 campaign, and then couldn't play Warhammer 2 multiplayer. I couldn't play multiplayer because my computer's too bad, and then I came in with the Tehenowin DLC. So that's when I basically kind of actually got into multiplayer and having to learn how to micro and stuff. More Berserkers are now charging into glorious hand-to-hand combat. Axes raised. They are taking a load of bombs, so through the fire and the flames they do go. Doing some nice damage, but the Marauder Hunter Javelins are now in range of the bombers, looking to put some pain on them, as the Burning Head does come down at the other line, looking to roast the bombers. Doing some nice work. It's not the perfect arc of fire from us, but still pretty decent, and Javelins are applying a lot of pressure. Shaman Sorcerer Fire has popped Scholarship on themselves. They're taking a huge burst pressure now from the handgunners and Death Shriek attacks. So we're going to be Spirit Leeching down the deck droppers and basically ignoring them for the most part. In the distance, Fellbats are kiting our horsemen away. But I'm not too fussed because the front line's going so well. We're carving up the undead horrors. Berserkers pushing into the back line as well as Marauders on this flank. This side as well, we're looking to overload a little bit more. Skinwolves are staying in reserve. Now, the reason I'm keeping these Skinwolves back here and the second unit is to basically fight the Death Shriek if he does land. It looks like I went pretty poorly for this unit, but if we can pin him in and get the Hunters, Javelins doing their work, we could be in pretty good straits there. Frog's taking some big damage. We are currently below on the balance of power, but despite this, we've kind of got into all the good stuff, right? Marauders are pushing their way through, and it looks like some bombers accidentally bomb a load of their own troops, which is really nice work for us. Skinwolves and Frog are supporting in the center. It looks like another Spirit Leech is going down on the deck droppers, just trying to kill as many models as possible. And now the Hunters are cobing shots up into the Death Shriek. Now, this is a problem for the handgunners. You dive in, target, and get rid of the Javelins, or you focus down Frog. Looks like my opponent is going to go Frog, and he does actually manage to break and rout him. He is running for his life. Cannon shots as well coming for that trollish booty. Berserkers are going to push their way through now, get on top of those carriers and finally shut them down. We have 2 Hunter Javelins as well. Focus firing down Count Noctilus where possible, and he's pinned in by Skinwolves. He's in a really dangerous situation. Handgunners need to start dive bombing these troops, as it looks like we are kiting away the polearms in the distance. Fellbat's probably going to be more useful hunting down the Javelins than myself, my Horsemen here, because the Horsemen will kite back as well relatively effectively. Skinwolves return to the field are getting here, and they are very, very angry. Frog should rally at this point. He's getting shot in the back by cannons. Leadership very good though, and he has managed to come back to the cause. But there is a Death Shriek Terrorgeist lurking up in the skies. Huntsman going to be falling back. It looks like we're going to have a big breath attack coming in as well. But Frog, ever the crafty fellow, is going to juke and dive it. Hunters now will turn to engage. We have 2 units here as well firing in. Balance power is now for the first time in our favour. And oh my god, the burst damage! Oh, that's disgusting. Death Shriek Terrorgeist just loses a big fat chunk of health as he tries to pursue Frog, who gets hit in the face by a cannon. Not having a good day whatsoever. Count Noctilus has hit the Spirit Leech. The Hunters are currently focus firing 2 targets, which isn't quite so useful or effective as me. But Frog, should deal with Death Shriek. Frog in combat against large foes is just an absolute man mountain or troll mountain. And the Death Shriek Terrorgeist going down a big club, just cracks the skull of the Death Shriek, and down it goes, which will allow my Huntsmen, who have basically used up all their ammunition at this point, to focus down the leader of the enemy force, and the bats fall from the sky, and mankind rejoiced as the Norscans do seal victory. Hell yes. It was a pretty fun battle all round, pretty close stuff, and Kamikaze was a very tough opponent all round. Played some really good games. So before we go into our final games, we will look at Kamikaze's build and so forth. No, there's 2 horsemen, but they kind of got carried away, which is bad play by me, but it distracted the bats who needed to get on the javelins, so it was okay. Yeah, you normally need the horseman to protect, but he only had the 2 deck droppers, so it wasn't such a problem. He did kind of nuke the troll down pretty effectively, but, you know, it was okay. It was okay. We managed to seal victory, and to be honest, even if he had assassinated our characters there, we have so many berserkers just running around the field. It was an absolute nightmare for my opponent in the end, but very well played to Kamikaze, some fun games, really lovely fellow as well. I think it was Kamikaze who said he was quite excited to play me because he's seen the channel and stuff before, said he was a little nervous, but he did some good work. Count got to 1,000 damage value, very impressive work by him. Mobs and polearms as well, doing pretty basic stuff. Unfortunately for him, the bombers, one unit did okay, the other one got shot down, javelins just peppering them, as well as berserkers pushing through. And yeah, little mistake with the Felbats chasing away the horsemen. That's great and all, and it's better value for him, technically, like theoretically, but they need to be hunted down the foot troops, otherwise he was going to be in all kinds of problems, as the Terrorgeist and Noctilus kind of got shut down. Death Shriek only 470 damage value, not very impressive there. Hangul as well, really struggling. The Carronades, not too bad, nothing too shabby. So for the forces of Frog the Mighty, Frog again basically just took a load of shots, was a big fat distraction, and one of the casters as well just got assassinated, the other one not doing too good. It was basically just the meat and bones, or meat and vegetables I should say, of any good Norscan build, just Marauders and Berserkers carving their way through. Not particularly good value, I mean this one got 1,000, but just climbing their way through the chaff, getting in the back line, shutting down anything which can threaten the rest of my build, and then the MVPs, the Marauder Hunter Javelins. 1,600 damage value, 500, 1,200, 1,400. That is disgusting. You simply can't allow these guys to fight all game. They most of them used up their ammunition, and you can see why. They brought down Noctilus, brought down the Death Shriek, absolute MVPs. Huntsman as well, obviously, the Horsemen didn't do too much. One Skin Wolf unit did really good, 1,100 damage value. The other one kind of struggling in the distance a little bit more. What's the best matchup against vampires? Dwarfs. Dwarfs for sure. Yeah, Felbats are a really amazing unit, both for Vampire Counts and Vampire Coast, in my humble opinion. Very good. Hope you guys are enjoying. We are going to be going into the final matchup soon. Let's correct the scoreboard quickly. So I think this is right. I think this is... I think we're on track. Yeah, because I've lost 2 games, so that makes sense that I have 8 after all the games. Cool, so we are currently 8-2. There was some big news as I was going into my final games here. So, Kamikaze, the player we just beat, took a game off Gwak. So he managed to drag him down a game as well, which means the fight for the top of the group is well and truly back on. Means we're tied, so if I win my final game here, he has to win every single other game, or we finish top of the group. But there's still a large hurdle yet. That is my opponent facing us today. So let's go in and load him. Now, at this point, I was actually facing 2 opponents, but the other one, unfortunately, couldn't play. So he has also dropped out. And up next, we are up against Haruno. And Haruno, I think, said he was very new to the tournament scene. So I was relatively comfortable, relatively confident here. We are going to be seeing, once again, my Lizardmen up against his Dwarfs. And then his Empire versus my Warriors of Chaos. So I was relatively confident, but at the same time, I don't want to, didn't want to get ahead of myself and kind of panic and mess up anything, because we have dropped games, obviously, in this tournament so far. Let's have a nice little drink before we get going. Both Depth Guard and Mongols have so little HP, they may as well not have the hunger, since they're going to get nuked before they make any difference. Yeah, that can be a bit of a problem. If you guys are enjoying, by the way, make sure to punch that thumbs up button. It really helps push the stream out to more people. Glad to see so many of you watch. I think we have over 100 people. That's insane. Oh, hell yeah. I think that's the most we've had in the live stream for quite a while, since kind of the Death Before Dishonor finals and all that good stuff. But if you're enjoying, yeah, feel free to like, feel free to subscribe and all that kind of good stuff. We drop content every single day, live stream a couple of days a week. If you want to get involved in tournaments and stuff I host, send me replays to be cast on the channel. There is links down below to my Discord. I'm sure if you ask very kindly, what some of the mods may drop a link to the Discord for you as well. There's all links to my Patreon if you want to support the channel. You can also become, if you're subscribed to channels, like a little blue join button. You press that as well, you can become part of the Great Duck Hordes. So we're going to be coming in with basically an identical build again. Very similar situation from us up against Haruno here. And it's going to be a repeat of a game we've already seen. So I'm not going to go over my build too much, as it's pretty much identical. So we have the Pterodon Riders, we have the Skinks in the back, we have the two biggers, the Thunderous One and Lord Mazdamundi, load of Skink cohorts, Javelins on the flank this time. So we actually changed it up a tiny bit, I assume, as we have a few of them, and Red Crested Skinks kind of dotted throughout. Opponents are going to be taking a real defensive formation, really tightly compact. We have Longbeards, Dwarf Warriors in the front. Once again, Gotrek, but this time Ungrim is going to be leading the forces. Enough of that white dwarf rubbish. Ungrim is the true king and ruler of the Dwarven folk. You heard it here first. Axe of Dargo, we have the Red Ruin, we have Deadly Onslaught, we have Foe Seeker, all the goodies. I actually really don't like Red Ruin. I basically don't take Red Ruin ever, but apart from that, pretty cool stuff. More Dwarf Warriors and Longbeards in a tightly packed formation. We have Giant Slayers, like quite a few. 2 Giant Slayers, Slayers. Yeah, pretty scary stuff. 2 Slayers, 2 Giants. We also have one of the Iron Drake Trollhammer Torpedoes. Very good in this matchup if you can get them to stay alive and fight the entire game. It's going to be pretty hard to crack this shell, actually, because the main thing I have to break into the back is the 2 big monsters, and there's just so many more Slayers in this army than in the previous one. The previous one only had 2, this time there's 4. That's some pretty scary stuff for sure. Mortal Monster says, loving the stream, Duck. Thank you, man. Thank you so much. Toss bread to the duck. Blackfawn says, drop those likes. Yes, bread for the duck gods, as they say. What's up, Grumpy God? And we're only dropping a fat rock drop down on the Iron Drakes, and I believe that was the Pohawk Sentinels, and it just did like no damage. Iron Drakes don't care. You can drop a mountain on these guys' heads, and they're like, we live here, this is fine. Barely a flesh wound, so we're really struggling to put any damage onto them. We did do some nice damage though on the Giant Slayers, which is always good to see. We're actually going to be falling back with the Skink Cults a little bit and trying to rotate our build around to try and get into the back line, and also buy some time for our Skink Skirmishers to come back here and start peppering the Giant Slayers, because even more than the first game against the Dowie, they're going to be very key here in this matchup. And you decide to bomb the dive bomb the Iron Drakes, just trying to force them off the field, but these guys just don't care. They're so bad to the bones, and now some Giant Slayers are actually going to catch up with our Pterodons, but this isn't the worst situation. Even if we lose these Pterodons, it is allowing us to completely isolate a unit of Giant Slayers and really hammer them home. You can see Red Crested Skinks have pushed their way up around the flanks. Skink Cohort's going to be piling in, and there's a big fat blob fight happening, which, as you know, the Mazdamundi loves a blob fight. We can drop Ruinations here, we can drop Banishments here. It's a little risky because of our own troops, but Refuse to Die is currently popped. And we're actually going to be diving into the back line after those Iron Drakes, as these Giant Slayers are currently, unfortunately for them, getting peppered into another realm. Down here, Red Crested Skinks fighting Dwarf Warriors. We also have some Skink Skirmishers coming back to the fray. Surely the other ones has gone down. I don't know what these Skinks are doing. They're just running for their lives. Maybe they've lost faith in the great plan. Thunderous One does Thunder Punch some Iron Drakes, who are terrified. Only 5 left of them, as a Thunderbolt bursts one into the ground. He's just a smoky, ruinous crater now. And Skinks desperately trying to catch the Giant Slayers, because as we spoke about before, this is a brilliant matchup for them. Mazdamundi up to 31 kills, a big banishment going down, breaking some Dwarf Warriors, but there's just so many heavily armoured Dwarfs all over the place. We are getting the right engagements, which is really key here. Skink Cohorts hopping on top of Giant Slayers, Skink Skirmishers peppering them down with blow darts and javelins. It is a beautiful sight to see for sure. A big fat Curse of Midnight Wind comes in, lowering the armor and melee attack of all these troops, allowing the Skinks and Red Crested Skinks to really, punch above their weight than normal. Oh no, what happens? Oh, Tim House, what's up, man? Oh no, my fight, the poor Dowie kited again. No, it's all good, man. We're on to your games now. It's some pretty exciting stuff. I was speaking about you earlier on, man. You played some really good games. So Lord Mazdamundi has pushed through, attacking the Giant Slayers and running over the Dwarf Warriors. There's not too much of a threat for him, but the Thunderous One is in big trouble. You never mess with the Dwarfs, and this is why. The Longbeards just pin him in place. They do not bow. They're like the Spartans from 300 right now. This is where we hold them. This is where they die. And Gotrek, Slayers, Ungrim, they are beating the snot out of the Thunderous One. I'm in big trouble. If this Thunderous One goes down, that leaves just Mazdamundi. And look at my Skinks. We're starting to waver quite badly, so the skirmish game is going to be key. We're peppering down at Giant Slayers. doing some pretty nice damage to this unit, but with those Longbeards still active, and the Hero Core's pretty scary, and he's pushed off the Thunderous One, so this Dwarf going down with a bit more of a bang than the previous opponent. But, you know, Cold-Blooded is active, just try and cheer up the Thunderous One a little bit, despite the fact it has already broken. We're now going to be committing the Skink Cohorts in the back and try and plug in the Longbeards and Giant Slayers, heal up the Thunderous One with an Apotheosis, and allow him to escape. So, Sacrificial Skinks, it's all part of the plan. Thunderous One does, or Master I should say, pops over here to beat down these Dwarf Warriors and help support the Red Crested Skinks, twirling their gigantic great axes and clobbering these Dwarf Warriors to death. Their mighty shields holding, but not for much longer. The Thunderous One should return, but very low health. And the Dwarfs, it's bound to have slightly in my favour, but they formed a little mobile death ball. And it's looking a little bit scary at this moment. Terran Riders here, I think they've used their Rock Drop if we have a little zoom in. Yep, you can normally see it dangling in their feet. We have some Skink Skirmishers, but they are starting to run rather low on ammunition. A big fat Ruination comes down, and that is some value. Look at those 3 blue streaks clobbering at this big old blob of Dwarven forces. And he's basically a mobile fist now, right? He's just moving around the battlefield, trying to slam any pockets of strength I do possess. But for me, that kind of suits because we have the kite game going for us. Pterodons can swoop in, chase away routing troops. We're going to be slow rolling this, healing up the Thunderous One where possible. Big banishment coming down once more on all these Dwarf Warriors and Slayers, getting some lovely value. Also killing some co-op Sotek, but they're Skinks. It's what they're there for. And I'm actually trying to pull away with my Skinks, but Banishment like chases them. It's really funny. So these guys obviously have been condemned by the old ones themselves. Longbeards are going to be running at this point. Thunderous One is vibing just on the edge of the battle at this point. I'm not committing him. I'm simply going to use his little miniguns to shoot up into Slayers, try to whittle them down as my Skink Core does start to break and rout. And I'm not so sure about this one. Okay, Mazdamindi's full health. That's one thing we have really good going for us. Thunderous One is very low. If Gotrek gets 1 or 2 good licks on him, we're in trouble. But luckily, my opponent doesn't have a smoke bomb here. Has no runes of Wrath and Ruin, nothing to slow me down. So we don't have to commit to the fight if we don't want to. Thunderous One is going to be getting healed up once more with an Apotheosis. Shield of the Old Ones has gone down. Co-op Sotek, of course, Unbreakable. Shall fight to the death. Pushing away those Longbeards. Come on, lads, you can get to 69. I believe you. They're on 66 kills at the moment. And yeah, Gotrek, Ungrim, obviously going out like true bros. Slayers are back to back. Now, we still have decent ammunition on some of the Skink Skirmishers. Others have used quite a lot up. So we do need to kite back the Slayers where possible. Yes, yes. So I'm trying to catch... I'll catch you guys in just a little second. In the Glorious chat, someone says, thank you, congratulations on the 4K subs. Thank you so much, man. It's a really cool milestone. 5,000 is going to be wild as well. I'm going to do a giveaway for it. And then I think the next challenge after that will be to hit 8K. Because then CA give you all the goodies. They upgrade you to a proper streamer, which is quite cool. So Thunderous One is, yeah, just doing a good job. Set up here, 46 kills, already up to 1.2k damage value. Nothing too crazy. The little Skinks have certainly had to put in their work today in dragging down the opponent where possible. But now we've just committed a few Skinks and have our Skirmishers sitting on top. A little obstructed, but they are going to fire in after Ungrim. As well as Gotrek. I think we're going for Gotrek first because of his lack of armor, and we've just completely surrounded him at this point. Balance power is very heavily in our favor. Looks like Mazdamin is going to risk a little charge. I was a little nervous at this point. I really didn't want to mess this up because I knew these games were so pivotal to who could win the group stages and so forth. Lord Mazdamin has knocked these guys down. And Skink Skirmishers are currently firing a little bit obstructed there. But we can kite back with Mazdamundi now. We've once again popped Apotheosis on the Thunderous One, just continuously healing them up so he can come back and fight late game. Just committing a few little Skinks and gonna basically shoot the Dowry to death, which is a little bit ironic. Dwarfs tend to like to shoot other people quite a lot. That minigun is so damn good. Oh yeah, man. That minigun is just beautiful stuff. He's literally just sat here and just unleashed hell. It does pretty good damage. People will really underestimate it. It's like the Dread Sorin. One of the reasons why the Dread Sorin is better than the Feral one, apart from the added leadership, that minigun can honestly be used to counter skirmish. It does so much work. Because I believe he has 2. Actually, no, I think he has 2 as well, the Thunderous One. But it looks like a Gotrek is going to get punted. He's also going to get netted down, so he's on his own. We've actually netted both these guys, come in, and then we're just going to allow ourselves to shoot the Skink Skirmishers. His forces, of course, are netted at this point, so there's simply nothing he can do apart from take shots. And yeah, that's not a good day at all. I don't think we're even chasing it. Oh, we can chase off these Longbeards, but apart from that, it is literally going to be just a cycle first and a shoot first. Just obliterate them where possible. Apotheosis does come down on the Thunderous One. He's taking a bit of damage, but not before he does some massive revenge killing onto Gotrek. 820 health left on the big one. Thunderous One once again gets another Apotheosis. Shield of the Old Ones is down. Mazdamundi is standing and fighting up against Ungrim, a worthy foe to end the saga of Ungrim if he is going to go down here. You never know. Skink skirmishers, though, just pop in and go Trek with just so many shots. Just how many darts must be in his back? And it looks like the mighty hero. I love the fact he's voiced by Brian Blessed, by the way. It's just so hilarious. But yeah, he's taken a lot of darts to the back, and all the skinks are now starting to swarm down the hills. It actually looks like the dwarfs are running away, but they are trying to be heroic and chase after Mazdamundi. It's Mazdamundi who's been the coward. But again, the history tells will tell a different story. Curse is going to be coming in. Ungrim is suffering now in the mix. And it looks like his little buddy Gotrek has unfortunately bit the dust. So very well played to my opponent. That was a scrappy little game. He did huge damage. Luckily for me, though, the skirmishers were pretty healthy at the end, and still had some okay ammunition there. PewDiePie Cloud win. Man, go over there and spam his stream. If someone like PewDiePie had heard of me, that'd be hilarious. It's kind of funny. I can see, like, when people subscribe to me, you see how many subs they have, and there's someone with, like, 200,000 subscribers who has subscribed to me. And they do like American football videos or something, because like it's so random. It's so random. Bread is okay. So yeah, you don't really want to feed too much bread to ducks. Funny enough, I've done some research on this. You can feed them bread. It's not like horrendous, but you just can't give them much. Okay. Yoni saying, yeah, for how enjoyable your channel is, 100 viewers, it's not that many. It's fine, man. Honestly, like. I'd love to get, like, obviously more views. It's just really hard to push yourself out there. There's so much good content as well already. By some of the bigger channels, you can kind of get swallowed up a little bit. Yeah, I tried with Ungrim. I love Ungrim in fairness. Gotrek's heals failed. Yeah, that kind of sucks, unfortunately, for him. If it worked, though, I could have been in a little bit of trouble there. Full health Gotrek. If he'd managed to assassinate my characters, but I probably would have pulled away and kited a little bit, which would have been a bit of a problem. Felix can be used, but not in this matchup, I don't think, too much. But anyway, well played to Haruno there. I think his name is also, if I remember off the top of my head, Tim. I believe it's Tim. Tim Paz, yeah. He was in chat. Very well played, buddy. Good first game. Ungrim came in 1.8k damage value. Good stuff. Gotrek suffered a bit more, only 600. Dwarf Warriors did okay across the board, as well as the Longbeard. It was all about the Slayers. Unfortunately, they got kited, as well as the Iron Drakes, who still got nearly 700 damage value, despite the fact I just chucked everything at them at the start. Mazdamundi was the real MVP here. Normally, in most of my battles, he's been outshone by the Thunderous one, but 3,500 damage value, 24k damage dealt, nearly 25. 168 kills, an absolute monster, and he comes in with the magic as well. The little skinks, they dreamed. They did some pretty big damage, 700, 700 here. I think they wanted a bit worse, 400. And the Red Crest as well across the board. Good stuff. The Attendant Riders, 900 damage here. 500 to 200, nothing too crazy. And the Thunderous one, 3,000 damage value. Okay, I take it back. Only been outshone a tiny bit. 3,000 damage value, really a good number over on my opponent's Lords. So we do have one game to go. Let's update the board. So we are 9 and 2. So pretty exciting stuff. But we need to finish the deal, and Haruno certainly showed he is a man of class and power there towards the end. Should be pretty close in this last game as well, hopefully. Has anyone seen a stream of PewDiePie and Dr. Disrespect? No, but I've seen some streams with PewDiePie and someone else. I think Jack Spadacy, I think it is, like the Irish geezer. Here they do some really funny stuff together. But here we go, the last battle. Strap your boots in. Do you think that the Duckmeister himself can get to 10 points? Or will we fall just short? We'll have to find out. So let's pop in here and have a little look-see. Man, the Thunderous one it's so good, honestly. People, I don't know why more people don't bring him. I love him. Maybe it just suits my playstyle, or maybe I'm overhyping it, but he's been MVP in most of my matches. Especially, if you guys join late, go back and watch the Guac game. I'm probably going to cast it separately anyway. The Thunderous one just carries me to victory. It's insane. I think got like 5,000 damage value or something. It's so wild. But anyway, here we are up against the forces of the Empire once again on Eschen. My opponent decides to take the high ground rather wisely and try to outshoot the Chaos. So this build is the Annoying Duck build. And why do we call it the Annoying Duck build? Well, we are led by the greatest duck of all, the Everwatcher. And he's pesky as hell, coming in with a huge amount of magic and missile resistance, 50 and 25. He causes terror. He has final transmutations. If you surround him to try and assassinate him, that's going to be a big problem. Plague Rust and Searing Doom are his poisons of choice. Up in the sky, we have double Exalted Hero on the Manticores, both coming in with the Mark of Khorne. For For the main battle line, it is cheap and cheerful Chaos Marauders, with one exception. We have the very angry and expensive Mirror Guard here, and these guys, of course, immune to psychology, will help them as the Marauders as well chew through the Empire State troops that little bit quicker. We have a ton of skirmish cav, Marauder horsemen with thrown axes and some basic ones. A couple on the left, a couple on the centre, and on the right-hand side we have the Summoners of Rage, the regiment of renowned dragon ogres. These guys are beasts. They are terrifying sons of Thor and Odin, and they do come in as well with their own chain lightning, but they've been in combat a little while before they can pop it, I do believe. In the distance, we have some Chaos Warhounds of Poison, one in either flank, looking to get a little bit of a cheeky number over on my opponent if he's not paying attention. For his forces, he has double Outriders down here on the left-hand side, looking to apply some decent pressure. And this is such a aesthetically pleasing deployment. It looks so good. It's like a real regimented something you'd see in real life. So you have spearmen and swords dotted around in a porcupine-style build. Great swords in the centre pocket to countercharge Chaos Warriors. I don't actually mind great swords in this matchup, despite the fact I've been a little bit harsh to them in the past. We have 2 little handgunners in the back, no silver bullets though, and we have a great cannon right in the middle. We have the Royal Altdorf Griffites on the left-hand side, regiment of renowned demigryphs who can tear apart Kolek, any of the big threats. They tear apart Big Bird as well in combat very quickly. A Bright Wizard, Burning Head and Cascade and Firecloak, and Karl Franz up on the skies, Wilden Garmaraz in one hand, a Runefang in the other. Should be a fun game, so let's get super aggressive and attack this Empire build as much as possible. Dreadsaw is just more spectacular to Bryn. 100% agree, Optimus Prime. Hope you're doing good as well, man. I haven't seen you in a while. I have missed your puns greatly. And, I mean, your name alone, Optimus Prime, is pretty beautiful. So, we are going to be advancing, of course. Our horsemen are going to be looking to wrap around the flanks where possible, as well as the Warhounds. And this one, just trying to stay in the shadows for now, because on the minimap you can't actually properly see them, which is a nice little trick for any of you newer players. If you deploy stuff in the very far corner, normally it won't appear on the minimap, and you can try and get the jump on your opponent. We're going to be taking a little bit of damage on the approach, of course. Some of the Rage are moving out to this left-hand flank, where we're going to do a little bit of a flank overload, or at least that's what we're looking for. Exalted Heroes up in the skies, and the Big Chicken is getting super aggressive, just like, or the Big Duck, I should say. Something like, quack, quack, what's up, Karl Franz, come get me, I'm here. I've got a big old duck booty. I'm sure Karl Franz like crispy ducks like the most of us. And we're going to be pulling him back, so we're trying to drag him away and bait him into trying to assassinate us with the Summoners nearby, as well as the Exalted Heroes. And if we can pull Karl away from his gun line, I'm quite happy to take the air fight. We can drop Plague of Rust on him and do all that good work. Marauder horsemen are throwing some javelins in the back on the Royal Altdorf Griffites, but good countermeasures by my opponent. Handgunners leasing shots down range, doing some pretty big damage, and the horsemen on the other side as well, struggling a little bit after initially hunting down the Outriders and pushing them away. Main battle line is getting ready to engage. We charge uphill, puffing and panting. We go to glory in the name of chaos, bread for the dark gods. And the Exalted Heroes are now hunting down at Karl Franz, trying to catch him. I'm getting ready for this, so I'm prepared. We come in with both our Exalted Heroes, and now we're going to start dropping all our debuffs. Stand Your Ground and Reichland Runefang has been popped, as well as Garmaraz, turning Karl Franz into an absolute slayer of mortals. But in we come with the Plague of Rust. We're going to fall back with one hero that he's attacking to try and mess up his animations and make him chase, and then we're going to swoop back around and fight once more. The line is currently buckling for the force of the Empire. Mirror Guard pushing their way through, as well as Marauders finding the gaps in the line, dodging those great swords, allowing the hounds in and hunting down the archers and great cannon. But the main thing you guys want to see, of course, is this duel up in the skies. Karl Franz is being tag teamed. He is not happy about this whatsoever. Plague of Rust does last a rather long time, and he is just being clobbered. The oh god, I've got a click for name. Exalted Heroes certainly are no joke, especially with the Marker Corn. They hit incredibly hard out the gate. If we have a little look here, better melee attack, immune psychology, so not going to tear out, charge bonus, all that good stuff, and they do drag down Franz. In the back line, Summoners of Rage are fighting their counterpart. Both of these guys anti-large. Now we have the Summoners versus the Royal Outlaw Griffites. Horsemen are charging into combat as well, trying to get on top of those handgunners, just breaking the formation. And now that the Empire of Mankind has fallen, the Age of Man is over. And the Age of the Duck has begun. Not looking too bad. Horsemen cobing some axes and javelins into the back of the Marauders. My opponent's build was just a little bit too tight, I think, with the great swords and so forth to protect two handgunners as well as a great cannon. Nice little Searing Doom coming down as well, clobbering some of those great swords, doing pretty decent work. Yeah, the great swords managed to win their fight and push away some Marauders, but then they're kind of isolated and we simply outswarmed the enemy. But very well played to my opponent. I believe he said it was his first tournament. So all around, I think he played some pretty cool games, and it was very much fun to face him. They're all worshipping the big boy Franz, oh hell yeah. Oh man, the Tzeentch armies, there's going to be ducks everywhere. We need to, like, I need to find a way into, like, CA, like, infiltrate in and be like, Zane should be really good to have a load of ducks or, like, duck name stuff. But anyway, very well played to my opponent, Haruno there, aka Tim. Awesome stuff, man. Hope you had a good time as well in the game. Karl Franz getting 1000 damage value. Fought valiantly, but the double exalted hero with magical support is simply too much for Karl Franz in the sky, and that's why I bring it. Of course, if you apply handgunners, outriders, and so forth, you can swing that engagement. And it's a little bit dicey. It can be a little bit scary, but hopefully Papa Palpatine was watching this one. I think he may have darted out of the chat, but he, of course, is a big fan of Chaos. Great Sword's a really fun pick, but unfortunately nothing on his build really managed to get fantastic value, I don't think, across the board. I simply swarmed it and shut it down a little bit too quickly, but still a nice valiant defense on the hill. Summoners of Rage got pretty good value. They, again, didn't have to get their axes too wet. They kind of clobbered those Griffites at the death, but nothing too fancy. Warhounds, one unit kind of failed. The other unit, though, did get in that back line on all those juicy targets. Horsemen, a similar story as well. Mirror Guard, again, 77 kills, basically lost no health, along with all the Roars, didn't really need to do any work because the Hero Core is what won the day. Exalted Heroes, nearly 1000 damage value on this one, 1300 on the other, just killing the enemy Lord and then breaking their force with the Gigantic Duck, also getting 1000 damage value, and a bit of a comfortable victory there in the end. Why isn't Karl Franz leading the French Bretonians? Oh yes, Optimus Pine, you're back. You're back in business. I love it. I love it. But that was really fun. Beautifully done. Thank you, Yoni. David says Chaos Hero with Mark of Corn has got to be one of the best pound-for-pound heroes alongside Saurus Scarvetions. I need to use Saurus Scarvetions, man. I need to use them way more than I do. Darth Plays did a really good video about them and why they're like really powerful. And I just don't bring them, despite being a main. So we are up to 10 points there. Oh god, we've come out of the little duck. There we go. But unfortunately, 2 people left. So that is going to be up to 14 points. And then someone, unfortunately, had to concede against me because we were meant to play a game. They unfortunately missed the time. And we've run out of time to play the game. So we are actually going to be on 16 points to end the group. Now, pretty crazy stuff, guys, is Guac hasn't played all his games yet. So I don't know if we've topped the group. But at the very minimum, we have come joint first, which is pretty exciting stuff. So I believe what happens next is we unfortunately say goodbye to 5 people. So 5 people of the group do get knocked out of the tournament. The other 5 will progress. I believe the top couple of players, like top 2 or top 3 players, are going to group with some people who finish in the bottom section as well. So it's kind of like, you know, the higher up you finish in the group, the better. And we'll be moving on to another group, which will be a little bit harsher. There'll be less players in the group and more people will get knocked out. So once we've done all those games, there will be another live stream and we'll be bringing those games directly to you. So I hope you guys enjoyed. That was a really fun stream. And yeah, if you did enjoy, again, I know I say this a lot, but it really does help. If you want to support the channel, honestly, you guys being here is enough. But equally, if you want to drop a thumbs up, if you want to drop a subscribe, those things really help out. And if you want to support the channel in any other way, there are links down below to donation slots you can do. Patreon, you can become a member of the channel, which gives you some really cool little duck emblems. You become a member of the Royal Duck Guard on Discord. It's all crazy. And speaking of Discord, I'll drop a link just now to my Discord, so you guys can get involved in future tournaments I host. Death Before Dishonor shall be back most likely next Wednesday, which is a tournament open to all, and everyone can join. So let me get you guys a little invite. And then before you disappear, let's just copy that quickly. I will send you guys over to raid another streamer, which is something I quite like doing. We'll have to see if anyone is streaming. So there's a link to my Discord. Sorry for the awful grammar. No worries, man. Thanks for the stream, Duck. No worries, dude. Thank you very much. I wonder how many exposed genitalia are going to get metal bras in the game. Oh, yeah, with Zinch. Oh, for sure. For sure. They won't be able to show too much. Veterans, after all. Oh, no. Why do Scarvetions experts not have the aquatic trait? Oh god, they're veterans after all. I absolutely love it. But thank you guys for support. It's been pretty crazy. It's been a really awesome road as well to the 4,000 subs. So hopefully I'll have you guys here as well as we do go into the future. So let's quickly have a little look to see who is streaming right now. I know Logic was doing a tournament. It looks like Logic_EU is currently streaming some tournament action. So if you haven't had your fill yet of tournament games, he's a small YouTuber who is kind of starting out But does some very good stuff all around. He's actually my housemate as well. So make sure you go over there. Please spam quack as much as possible. I'll drop you guys a link now. Just go quack, 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 quack over and over again until it drives him mad and he breaks down and cries. Not to that extreme, of course. Not to that extreme. But say hello from me. Just yell quack at him. So here's a link to his channel. Make sure you go over there and say hello if you do enjoy tournament content. Once again, thank you guys. Must shout out to Blackthorn as well there. He says thank you for the stream. GG's. Good luck in the rest of the tournament. Thank you very much. Don't worry, guys. You'll be seeing my my ventures going forward. Probably with a lot more losses because, of course, the more experienced players are to come. And that's a little bit of a scary stuff. But I'm very happy in my group stages. When I saw Gwak, I thought there was no hope of topping him. And it looks like we're at least going to draw with him. And hopefully move above him as well. Anyway, guys, until next time, peace, peace. And as always, stay awesome.